Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hotline League Episode 4. Woohoo! We made it past 3 episodes. We've gone on to 4. It is roster hunting season. All right? There's a war going on out there, people.
I think the war is mostly over, Travis.
I don't know about that yet. I think it's
We're
just
we're
warming
we're,
up.
we're at like the Geneva Conventions. What was it called afterwards?
The
We're
Nuremberg
going over.
trials.
No, Nuremberg was the other thing. Geneva was when they set up all like the rules for future whatever. You know what? We're
Yeah.
we're we're past the war, is what I'm saying.
Well, as everyone knows, this show is 80s themed. Last week, a bunch of people at the YouTube comments were like, "Why is Kelby wearing sunglasses inside?"
I love that he got blown up for that when you
Yes.
did it the first 2
And
episodes.
I realize that people just don't. Everybody that watches our show aren't aware of the 80s because they were born in like 2001. And so like that concept of just like the sunglasses is lost to them.
It's great.
So either way, for those of you that are watching the show for the first time or the stream for the first time, the concept of this show, besides being an 80s ripoff, is it's a call-in radio show. So there is a Discord channel that will get popped up.
There's a command you can do !Discord at any point.
Yeah. I think if I press this and this and this, you can see the Discord link pop up. It's kind of hard to read, but it'll be in the Twitch chat as well. And you join there. Mark, you do the spiel because you're the whole.
Yeah, so we're going to be, taking your calls. Join the Discord. It's on your screen now, or you can click the link in chat. It'll bring you to the Discord, and then in order for me to be able to take your calls, you're going to need to jump into either the General or General 2 voice channels. You can mute yourself once you're there. We will give you guys some idea of what we want to talk about, but then in the text channel that's in front of you, type what you want to talk about, and make sure you guys come in with some strong, hot takes. I don't want to hear, random. What do you guys think about C9's new roster? You tell me what you think about. You tell me what you think about C9's roster, and I'll tell you if I agree or not.
Yeah, and I'll just sit there in the back looking at Twitch chat. For those of you that are wondering, yes, Nick Allen is going to be on the show. He will be coming in at around 8:45. It's about 8:11 as we're speaking of this. That's whenever he's available. But it also allows us to talk a little bit at the start of the show and take some of your calls about the non-CLG stuff, right? Because who cares what Nick thinks about Svenskeren joining CLG or Cloud9? Cloud9.
Yeah.
Who
cares about 100 Thieves Afro? Well,
yeah,
maybe Nick Allen.
Exactly. Either way. We want to hear from you about that stuff. Then we'll be getting Nick in. We'll be talking to Nick a little bit and then taking your calls so that you can talk to Nick and tell him why you think he should have kept Aframu or whatever other crazy stuff you want to talk about. Nick Allen, by the way, the COO of CLG, for those of you that do not know. If you're in the Twitch chat, shout it out. Either way. So, Mark, a lot of stuff has happened. It's been less than a week since we did the show. We had Kelby on last week and a call from Steve, which, by the way, was great.
Absolutely amazing.
And a lot of more roster rumors, but also a lot of finalized rosters. And I don't know where you want to start off first, but before we get into the calls, maybe we should just kind of share our opinions to rev the thought process of the callers.
Well, so talk to us. I had a funny interaction with Loco online, and this is something we can even potentially take some calls on if people want to come and chime in on it. But he was saying that he thought this was the craziest offseason thus far in league history, at least for North America. And I said I disagreed. I would take between season 5 and season 6 when the TSM Doublelift thing happened as the craziest time. And so a lot of people had very strong opinions on it. I don't know if you have an opinion on it, or maybe there's a different offseason.
I think this is
like
so.
The three-way trade thing.
I agree that Doublelift switching to TSM was huge, and especially because it happened like 3 hours after finals concluded. I don't know if people remember that, but it was like literally like, okay, SKT has won, and I'm in Germany, and then a couple hours later, Doublelift has left CLG, and then a couple hours later, he's joined TSM. I do think that this is the craziest still. Because while that was certainly big, the amount of just like shifting and switching, brand new teams, we're going to see rosters we never would have expected to happen. There's just so many crazy things. I mean, even Peter leaving TSM, there were probably some, but not very many people, I think, looked at TSM's performance at Worlds and were like, yep, fucking get rid of Doublelift. He needs to go. He's the problem. So that's why I think this is the craziest, and I'm just...
Yeah, but the thing is, so to counter that, One, the double lift from CLG was generally crazier just because they had just won finals. They were like the best North American team, and then that happened, which was just so crazy.
Yeah.
And TSM was on a downward trend. This time, TSM, they kind of flamed out. You knew some changes were coming. Also, there were a ton of other crazy changes that offseason as well. Like Fnatic lost Huni and Reignover and Yellowstar.
Yeah.
All of them came over to North America. Immortals came up. Yellowstar joined TSM as well. Sven came over as well. There was all that crazy shit happening. There was something with C9. I think High might have just gone down to the challenger team, and because they were like changing everything around with C9. There was a ton of crazy stuff, and I think crazy for me means that it has to defy expectations. And while this offseason had a lot of big moves, a lot of it was kind of expected with franchising coming in and 4 teams getting kicked out. You know there's going to be some big changes then.
Yeah. I mean, just think about the fact, like, and I know that this is just a rumor right now, but Echo Fox is said to be talking to Huni. Like, we will literally have had somebody who played in the finals of Worlds coming over to, like, Echo Fox, which has never been
Looper?
a stand-up team. I mean, I don't know. It feels...
That was a year removed.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that did not feel like this one did. So, look, I think the Doublelift thing and some of the other changes, like you said, were huge for that year. But I would still say this one's the biggest, and we haven't even seen it all yet.
I mean, we've mostly seen it all.
Well, let's talk about that. So one of the things we saw is the Svenskeren pickup for Cloud9 that got announced today. What do you think about this? Because a lot of people are flaming Cloud9, and I've been a little surprised because I always feel like Jack is the type of guy that just does crazy shit, and so you expect him to just pull out some like crazy Korean jungler or I don't know, whatever. And I kind of almost feel like he must have something else up his sleeve because I'm a little surprised by this. It's hard to imagine him just like swapping out contracts for Sven.
Yeah, I mean, I like Sven. I think he got too much of a bad beat a little bit towards the end because I think he started slumping a little bit more towards the end of summer and into obviously Worlds, and that's like right when contracts started really picking up a ton. So that direct swap feels pretty bad, as well as Licorice for Impact feels bad. And as much as like I like the guys that C9 got, I think they're both downgrades for the most part. And so I don't know how you can feel better about this roster.
I mean, do you like? Am I crazy in thinking that this is very unusual for Cloud9? I just feel like they always do something big and crazy, and Jack in particular is like actually just really, really good at putting rosters together. So this is kind of surprising to me.
This is really surprising. This could have been a whiff. It could have been a miss in free agency.
Yeah.
Because they've worked with Impact, and it's totally disingenuous to say Impact had like a great year, right? Like he was very up and down. He was benched for Ray on and off, and in the first half of summer, he straight up sucked. And it's one of the reasons C9 was slumping was the top lane position. So maybe C9 just wasn't happy with Huni. They said, let's bring in Licorice and let's get a superstar jungler. You know, we'll import Peanut. We'll import Yankos or something, and then they just whiffed on all of them.
Yeah,
you know that happens in real sports once everyone's traditional sports, real sports, whatever.
How are you the guy doing this? You know, I mean,
because I don't care. It's the kind of thing where it's like, if you're still getting bent out of shape about are esports athletes real athletes? Grow up. Who cares?
And maybe because I'm a comm major, I just know the value of words and the strength of them. Either way, so
I don't.
You don't know. You're just the numbers guy. All right. So if you're a Cloud9 fan, you're feeling kind of bummed, maybe.
Yeah.
And hopefully in a second we can hear from some Cloud9 fans on the call because I'd be interested to know how they're feeling.
Yeah, definitely. We can start going ahead. I'll start perusing here, looking for.
Well, while you're perusing, here's maybe the best way to, because I know people did want us to talk a little bit more about the rosters. Really quickly, give me your thoughts on CLG, Reignover and Biofrost coming in.
This one's also pretty tough. I mean, you're definitely getting an upgrade at jungle. I mean, even though Omar and Dardoch probably didn't look too much worse than Reignover, and at points you could even say they look better. I think just having a stable jungler is great for them, and I like Biofrost. I think he's really, really good. It's just a question of can CLG adapt to no longer having Aframu's voice in the team, which like Darshan is really vocal. I've heard he's pretty vocal as well. So maybe they have enough shot calling chops to fix it. And I would say that Biofrost was mechanically probably better than Afromu.
Okay.
At like that point in
Yeah, I
their
mean,
career. 'Cause
Afro, I think a lot of people weren't praising his mechanical skills last year.
yeah, he's been on a slow downward
Yeah.
trend on mechanics for a little while now, and I think he's still great. He's still a great player. It sucks to lose him. I don't think Biofrost will do as well unless the rest of the team can kind of pick up around him. But I could see a world where, Bio plays Bard and it looks a lot better than Afro's Bard.
Yeah. Okay. So we've got that. Then what else? I'm trying to think of what other big stuff. There's just so much, so it's hard to.
All right,
Let's do this thing before we call
let me,
somebody in.
before we go to the calls, once again, people who are typing, I would like to give my thoughts on the C9 roster and why I dislike it. Give me more. I could get you on the show. I have no idea what you're gonna say. Which part do you not like? Tell me you think Sven sucks. Tell me you think this. It's easier to pull you guys in if I know what your thoughts are before. So don't be afraid to be over the top in chat. That's what I want to see.
We also have a couple subs that you can see in the subs voice chat. If you are a sub, make sure you link your. We're beginning to figure out how to get the sub stuff working with Discord. So make sure you link your Discord info with your Twitch thing. There's a bit of a delay in getting it working, but in the future, hopefully, we'll have some good system in place for subs. And then the last thing I'd say, Mark, before we grab people, I am curious, based off of what we know so far and the pretty confirmed rumors, how would you rank top 4 NA? And do you think that there's a close top 5? Because everybody I know feels like it's pretty much TSM, Team Liquid, Cloud9, and CLG. Everybody feels like that seems to be the strong teams. So first off, do you agree those are the 4? And if so, how would you rank them?
What is the Apollo, Hakuho, Lyra other 2 members again?
I'm looking at there's a thread on Clutch. It's Solo, Lyra, Febiven, how you want everyone to say it, Apollo, Hakuho, and David Lem coaching. And so Lyra, Apollo, and Hakuho are pursuing or whatever, and all this stuff I think is unannounced.
Yeah, right. But that's the hypothetical one. I'd say it's mostly the 4 that you mentioned.
Okay.
I would take TSM first still. I would probably take TL second, and then C9, and then CLG.
Yeah, I do the same. I put C9 and CLG as a toss-up.
Let me pull up that Reddit thread real quick that has.
I'll link it. That's what I'm looking at right now. I'll just link it in the Discord for you.
Sure.
And I'll link it in Twitch chat for everybody else who wants to kind of follow along. We're going to be taking calls in just a moment. Would love to hear from Cloud9 fans who are upset about it or are excited about it. Anybody else who has any thoughts. If you are somebody following one of the other teams that we didn't mention, those top 4, and you think that your team is gonna have the chance to really make it big, would love to hear from you.
Maybe 100 Thieves has a chance with the supposed Cody Sun and Afro going in that bot lane, right?
Yeah.
Some days really good. I think Rio's really hit or miss. I liked mostly what I saw in spring out of him, and then summer, it sounds like the whole team sucked and he just completely lost motivation. And I think that reflects badly on him, of course. But if he finds his fire again, he's back with Prawley.
I think you have no idea what Meteos is going to bring to the table because he's hot and cold. How dedicated is he to being in the LCS? Is he just doing this because it's a big paycheck? You'd like to think he's going to be the Meteos that carried C9 in the past, but you don't really know.
Yeah, exactly. So I think there are a lot of question marks still with that team that would make me more hesitant than any of the other 4 already in there. Okay,
so everybody's heard a bunch of our opinions. Why don't you guys talk to us? Give us your thoughts on this stuff. Mark, you want to go down and check out, do a little bit of a test with our first guest?
Sure.
Okay. Anyway, I want to give a couple shout-outs during the break while he's figuring that stuff out to a couple of the people. Let's see if we can pull up my feed here. We've got a couple new subs tonight. We got Dr. Manhattan, Panda Poon Star, E-Fish, Little Asian 33, and we'll get to the rest in a second. But first off, we got Coldgrave on the show. Coldgrave, how's it going? Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Wisconsin currently.
Oh, is it? I imagine it's pretty cold there right now.
It's actually not as cold as I'm used to because I'm from the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and
okay.
it can hit like -40 there. So
yeah, all right,
it's pretty chill.
Very good. Well, it is pretty chill indeed. So what do you think of the offseason? What do you want to talk to us about?
I kind of don't understand why people are bashing Svenskeren quite as much as they are. Like, he had a really unfortunate Worlds run, but kind of everyone in TSM did. And I mean, the only person who really, I guess, seemed okay and like completely comfortable was maybe Biofrost and Haunter at times, although his wave management was questionable.
Yeah.
Uh,
Um, yeah, continue.
I was gonna say, so you think Sven's getting it too hard? You're a C9 fan. How do you feel overall about the offseason changes with both Impact and contracts leaving, getting Licorice and Sven? Do you feel better or worse about this team?
I I don't know because Licorice has been really good in the challenger scene, and I know he's a really talented player. But of course, losing Impact is pretty big. But then I have to remember Impact kind of had a bit of a slump in last split. I think a lot of the analysts were rating them in like bottom tier top laners there for a while. Um, so I'm not really sure how the top lane is going to go. It could go either way. I don't think that Svenskeren is necessarily a downgrade from contracts if Svenskeren can actually perform.
Coldgrave, do you think that there's a chance that part of the reason C9 fans are upset is because they expected really big moves from Cloud9, and this kind of feels like, oh, well, we just like the jungler that TSM didn't want?
Yeah, I can definitely get that. It kind of feels like C9 quote unquote lost the off season while all these other teams made these really big picks in imports. But I've kind of been a fan of like the core C9 roster for a while. I know Jensen's always incredible, sneaky, usually top two, top three AD carry, and Smoothie before Ale came in, everyone was touting him as the best support in NA. Um, I do still think this C9 roster can do pretty crazy things, and if Licorice steps up and Svenskeren goes back to his like early TSM SK gaming form, where he's just allowed to go nuts on things like Kane, Lee Sin, or even Rek'Sai, I think we'd see a pretty interesting C9 roster this split.
Yeah,
I can see that potentially, but here's the concern: is if you followed the challenger scene, Licorice looked great when he was in there, but his promo tourneys were not very impressive at all. He got bested by Lorlo and things like that, and I think Lorlo's a fine like mid to low tier LCS player, but that's potentially what you're getting. Whereas yes, Impact has had those times where he looks bad, but come playoffs, come gauntlet runs, come worlds, he's looking like one of the best tops in North America every single time.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking at chat. All the people, I don't understand the TSM turning junglers into word bots things. It's hilarious, even coming from like a non TSM fan. I don't understand why people seem to think that TSM just turns people into they can only ward. They lose all their mechanics.
Yeah.
That's one of the stupidest things circulating Reddit right now.
Yeah.
Like guaranteed.
Well, hey,
I'd agree with that a little bit, but who do you think has a better season? Contracts or Sven or Mike Young?
Oh, that's tough because it's really easy to look incredible on a roster that's been struggling, and you come in and suddenly there's this surge. So Mike Young got all that hype, but I remember a lot of players where there was kind of a slump, and then they came in and they did really, really well. Do you guys remember? I think it was for one game, Team Liquid Jinth was like super hyped up.
Yeah, I remember that.
yeah. Team Liquid always has people hyped up. Hey, either way, Coldgrave, I want to thank you for calling in. We got to get to another caller here in a second, but appreciate hearing your thoughts on what's going on with C9.
Yeah, thank you for having me on the show.
Yeah, have a good one.
Travis, what do you think? Who do you think has the best season between those three junglers?
Well, it was contracts, Mike Young and Sven.
It's Sven, yeah. So,
well, contracts is supposedly on Guardians, which is going to be a rough time for him. Probably, and I think Mike Young I think Mike Young is overrated, But I also think that TSM is just going to have a better environment and is going to set them up. And so much of how good you look in League of Legends is based on where you're at. You know, Lyra maybe being the exception.
Yeah, especially with jungle, it's so dependent on your laners and stuff. And I think Contracts, despite probably being the best of those three, is going to potentially look the worst.
Yeah.
Just because there's such little firepower on Golden Guardians.
Yeah. I think at some point in time, Skipper wants to come on the show. I don't know if we need to have her as the next guest, but at some point in time. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, Grill.
It's your show, man.
Tell me when to. It's our show, Mark. All right.
You tell me when to bring her on.
Grab our next guest. I'm gonna read off some more subs. All right. So where were we? Rafter Zandrius reset for 3 months. Harry Toe 2 reset for 3 months. He said the war is over. Teams are set. Where is Aframu? I don't know. Either way, AJ is joining us right now. How's it going, AJ? Where are you from?
Friendly CLG Canadian back again.
Okay, yeah, good to hear from you again. Whereabouts in Canada are you, if you can remind me?
I'm in Abbotsford, which is like an hour away from Vancouver.
That's right. Okay, so what do you got for us? What are your thoughts on the off season?
So I was looking at Echo Fox's roster, and it looks really stupid because
So I mean,
okay, well,
we should say nothing's been announced yet from them, I believe.
But the hypothetical Echo Fox roster for people who don't know is Huni, Dardoch, Phoenix, Alltech, and Adrian.
Okay, sorry to interrupt you. Why is it stupid, AJ?
Well, I think the bot line is probably fine, or the bot lane is probably not. I'm really concerned with, firstly, Phoenix and Dardoch, because unless I'm mistaken, they were like the two of the biggest clashes in the Team Liquid spectacle from like a year ago or a year and a half ago. That was kind of a joke.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, like that could explode again. You never know. And then if Huni comes in, like he's a pretty strong opinion and voice. Like I could see those three just like exploding and just like destroying Echo Fox. I don't know. It just seems like a disaster waiting to happen.
Yeah, I agree. It looks like a very Echo Fox roster, if you ask me. And yeah, I mean, you don't buy into the Rick Fox is going to sit down with his decades of athletic experience and turn Dardoch into a reformed Tyler 1 type character.
How can I teach these kids?
Yeah.
I don't. You know what? I thought I could give Dardoch a chance because I'm a CLG fan, right? I thought I could give him a chance when he came to CLG, and Afro was like the veteran leader who was gonna like turn his career around and stuff. And then it just like you thought it was going well, and then it's like all of a sudden.
Yeah.
AJ, oh wait, no, he's not doing anything.
AJ, do you think that there is value, and if you are a good jungler, just hanging out, streaming, taking the beginning of the split off, and then waiting till whatever team Dardoch is on, waiting till they get desperate enough, and then demanding all the money to join their team and save them?
I don't know. I feel like Dardoch just drags the team down every time he's on a team. Except for like he's got his occasional games where he pops off, but they're like it's only on like 20% of the games or something like that, and like the other 80% he's just like
not there. Yeah.
Yeah. So talk to me a little bit about the Phoenix pickup because I'm someone who I think the community probably thinks is a Froggen hater. I mean, even on the last episode, Kelby and I were talking, and I was saying I don't even know if Froggen is like that kind of superstar, get this guy and build your team around him guy anymore. But I have a hard time understanding why Phoenix would be that guy either, because a lot of their strengths and weaknesses are pretty similar, where they're both very strong laning players, don't always have the best team play. I think Phoenix might be a little bit more of a playmaker than Froggen, but he's also a lot more volatile than Froggen is. And like you said, I don't think Froggen and Dardoch would have worked, but Phoenix and Dardoch, in the breaking point thing, Phoenix wasn't a huge problem. It was mostly Piglet and Dardoch and Loco, that kind of triangle duking it out. But Phoenix wasn't perfect either.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like the Challenger series, and there were like times where Phoenix was just like styling on people. Like he has some good mechanics, but I mean that's Challenger, but. I think basically he's just like a discount Froggen, kind of, where he's got some mechanics and skills, but he kind of lacks the team play a little bit. He probably doesn't have the Froggen, and not that Froggen was obviously that great at shot calling with mid priority and all that. But yeah, I don't know. He just seems like a bit of a downgrade from Froggen, and I think I think Echo Fox is looking to build around someone other than Froggen, I guess, and maybe they're going for Hooney there. Maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll see.
hard to say. I think Hooney's not going to be a problem in terms of like attitude or anything like that. I could see
He's,
maybe other people on his team getting frustrated with some of his picks or something, but I don't think he
yeah,
himself would be the problem.
Yeah.
I think Hooney's less of a problem probably than the other two.
Well, AJ, thanks for coming on the show. It
Oh.
was good chatting with you. Hope Canada's going okay for you, and hope CLG for you has a good season next year.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. Hey, Mark, before you go to the next caller, of which I've moved Skipper into the room, she can be after this next one. But
Okay.
we brought up Breaking Point, and you mentioned Loco. I want to ask you a question. So we haven't talked about Guardians, but supposedly Loco is coaching it. And while I think Lorlo contracts definitely met, they all seem like pretty chill dudes. So it's funny that we might, and again, this is all the rumored stuff. It's funny that we might see Loco return to a team with Matt. I remember a couple scenes where Matt's just like, Loco,
What's going on here?
what's going on? But I am very curious your thoughts about Hai and Loco Doco, because I feel like those are two strong personality types. Hai is, I think, very used to just being in control of. I mean, I don't know what his relationship was like with his coaches in the past, but I feel like with Hai, it's always been he knows the best, and it's his way or the highway. I feel like the same thing with Loco Doco. I expect these two to have big clashes. I'm curious about your thoughts.
I think Hai does have this kind of strong opinion on like the plays that they go for and stuff like that, but I haven't really heard too many things about him being particularly hard to work with outside the game, in terms of like working through their problems and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I've actually
I
heard.
mean, him and Medios ran into problems supposedly.
Yeah, but supposedly, I don't know. Meteos feels like he's bumped into problems with a lot of his mid laners. Like he and Jensen had similar beefs from what they've said about each other, and a lot of mid laners typically have small beefs with their junglers. And I haven't heard too much with Hai other than the Meteos thing and like some behind the scenes stuff of him and Lemon arguing. But arguments always happen in the game, so I'm not quite sure how it'll work with Loco. But it could easily be the kind of thing where this team just struggles to win, and then like that always sours it. Just because, I mean, this team lacks so much firepower in most positions, and just in terms of like raw carry potential,
Yeah. All right. Well, you want to move on to our next guest?
Yes. Let me go make sure he's all right.
Yeah. I am unblocking the person in Twitch chat who said that I mistakenly blocked them on Twitter. Hopefully they'll be able to recover from the tough couple of months or however long. We've got Travis the Unknown used 10 bits. That was great. That increasing my coffers a ton. I am Cleve. 4 months says, hey, Travis, thanks for the 4 months. Rousing Goblin subbed. Sir Cattle subbed. Nerf Chattel. And we're joined right now by Con. Con, how's it going? Where are you calling from?
It's going pretty good. I'm calling from Idaho.
Idaho.
How's Idaho?
Boring.
Yeah, I figured. The only thing I know is potatoes. That's pretty much that state.
Was it corn or potatoes?
It's pretty much all of the above.
Okay.
So Offline TV just opened a PO box. Would you mind shipping some corn and potatoes to us, just so we could get a sample what it's like?
I mean, I could try, but it's kind of out of season.
Oh, okay. Well,
He also
true.
probably doesn't live on a farm.
No, I don't.
Yeah.
I thought Idaho was a farm. I thought the whole state was just.
The great thing about this show is we learn so much about North American states and cities and provinces, etc. Con, what do you have for us?
So I kind of was talking about how I think TSM's just roster changes are at best a side grade, if not a downgrade in some areas, and why I think they might be at risk of like not making finals and maybe not even making worlds in this year.
Okay, so why?
I think the big thing is it kind of bounces off the first guy, but I think Mike Young is a downgrade from Sven. Mike Young was rookie of the split last year, but besides his Nidalee plays, like once it kind of went to like a tank meta and stuff, his pathing and everything just fell off. And that was a Phoenix One team that was a top 3 team in NA the split before. And I think jungle is a super important position for teams to succeed, especially in the early game. And if TSM's having trouble getting a jungler like Svenskeren to do proper stuff, can we expect Mike Young to succeed at all, in the jungle?
But he's got that new fresh blood and energy and that aggressive playstyle, right?
True, but it, like I said, his only major successes was kind of on Italy last split.
Yeah. Mark?
Yeah, well, how much do you think plays into that? Just because P1 fell apart, like they were a building on fire all of summer split. Spring split, things started to go south. They started swapping their supports up. They started swapping their junglers up. Things are all over the place. Players don't know who's starting. You know, it sounds like there's complete miscommunication between coaching staff and players. Ryu got completely unmotivated to the point where he's just like, "Take me out of the fucking game, bro. I don't care." And a lot of that doesn't feel like, oh man, Mike Young should have fixed all that. So I have a hard time saying that, like, you know, I agree his Nidalee was his best thing and came in and revitalized them for a little bit, but once the honeymoon phase ended with that team, Mike Young isn't that good that he's going to save that. So I don't put too much at the second half of the split on Mike Young.
So is it really just Mike Young that's got you concerned?
Well, one, I think Sven and Mithy, with the whole new roster, is going to be interesting to see how they handle everything. And plus, there's always that, like, they brought in Song as a coach, but the last time TSM brought in like somebody to actually be a coach, that guy ended up leaving after the one split.
You talking about Woodbuck?
Yeah, are you talking about Woodbuck?
Are you comparing Woodbuck and Song? I'm gonna have to stop you right there, my friend, because one guy was at highest like a plat player who had no experience coaching in League of Legends and was brought in to do that, whereas Song was a pro player who then has coached many teams successfully, reaching the world stage I think every time for a team he was on. Aside for
my biggest thing is not as much about. I think Song is a great coach, obviously. The big question is always Reginald. How is he going to handle stuff?
Yeah,
even
I
if
think
you
that's
watch
fair.
Everything, like, the minute something goes wrong, you have Reggie stepping in and basically telling the coach his way is not right. Like, when you're watching TSM Legends, you're watching, you know, all their stuff and all the players. They're all talking about how Reggie's kind of taking over the coaching role when it matters. Is Song gonna do okay with that? Like, is that just gonna cause more drama in there?
And I do feel like that's maybe an okay assessment, Mark, because I do think that one of the questions is Andy helping or hurting? And no, I don't even know if Andy or TSM or anybody knows can answer this question completely, because it does seem like, you know, the age-old story of TSM slumps, and then halfway through the split, Reggie shows up, and then
things get better,
figure stuff out again. But it also, like, there are a lot of concerns, I think, about Andy is very involved every time they get to the international stage, and then they plummet. So how much help from Andy is too much?
And how much is TSM reaching the international stage and not being as great as people believe?
Sure. So it's
that's
hard to
that's
say.
my thing is anytime you bump into problems around TSM, it's always the international stage for the most part, which is pretty interesting to me because, you know, theoretically we're the fourth weakest region, and there's no reason TSM can't do what C9 does for sure and get out of groups, but
I also think like other teams in the region got a lot better with this roster change. I know like the last guy thinks Echo Fox is like a disaster waiting to happen. But I see that team, they're either going to be a disaster or they're going to be that top 2 or 3 team in the league.
Do you think there's a chance Echo Fox is going to be a top 2 or 3?
Before we get too off topic about how great Echo Fox is going to be, I just want to say I've talked to TSM like staff and people like that about the Reggie effect, and they think for the most part he's useful. They don't think he like steps on their toes. Some of them admit that like it's hard to say, but they don't feel like my authority is undermined or whatever. It's usually they want to talk to Reggie, and he's great in small bursts. But if he's like there too often, it can be a little overbearing. So maybe it is true when they reach the international stage, he's there too much. But I don't think that there's, at least internally at TSM, been that sentiment that it's too bad.
Yeah. Well, either way, I don't want to go into this Echo Fox craziness with you, Con, because I just don't.
I think they're going to be a disaster or they're going to be a top team. I think that's the only two things they're going to be.
I think there's a chance Echo Fox could go on a good spree and look good for a bit, but I don't have much faith in that team staying together. Do you mean like with Dardoch or after they replace Dardoch inevitably later on in the season?
Maybe after. You know what I'm curious is if you sat down with TSM, because it feels like their roster was almost decided way in advance because a lot of the stuff that was leaked almost 2 or 3 weeks before the free agency happened, that whole roster got confirmed.
Yeah.
I wonder, thinking back, did they even know that Contracts was going to go to a different team?
I'm sure they did.
That's the biggest question mark in the entire free agency for me is what happened between Contracts and C9 and like why he left.
Because I feel like TSM would have picked up Contracts over Mike Young.
I would have thought so too. I think contracts looked great from the outside. Who knows what was going on behind the scenes?
I don't know. I mean, I just think I assume TSM opted out of contracts because they must have known that he was going to become free, because I just feel like Andy and Jack talk to each other enough and are good enough friends that they would have had this conversation. So we're going off base. Either way,
Yep.
Con, appreciate the call. Hold it down in the potato state or the corn state. We don't know. And hope to talk to you in the future.
Yep.
All right. So next up,
You can drag her down.
okay. I mean, we don't. Do you want to even test? I don't even. She's not.
I
at my
heard
house.
it before. I have her muted.
Okay.
Let me unmute her.
Either way, I don't know. We're maybe stalling a little bit on the Nick Allen thing because I haven't heard from him yet. So we'll find out. But
Nick?
Yeah.
Nick?
Take next caller. So next. Oh, I have her muted too. Why is she muted? Oh, there we go.
No, she was just muted.
Yeah. All right. So we've got Skipper on the line. Calling from where?
I'm calling from Los Angeles, California.
Okay. You're a little loud. I'm going to turn you down.
Yeah, me too.
But what do you got for us, Skipper?
How many questions can I ask?
You got one. And it's not a question. It's like you're supposed to make
you have
an assertion.
opinion.
All right. I have an opinion.
Yes.
Okay. My opinion is that I think that Doublelift had to go to their Team Liquid retirement home because he failed to get TSM out of groups.
Okay. So are you saying that TSM decided that Doublelift sucked, and so he's going to the retirement home? Why do you think TL? Are you aware of TL's full roster?
Yes, and so going on that note, I think Steve bought Doublelift's contract after Reggie kicked him off just to get his fans excited about his 4th place team.
Okay, so you're suggesting that this is just a popularity play, and that Doublelift sucks.
Yeah, he's trash.
Okay, and so is your suggestion that Steve is just acquiring talent for entertainment purposes?
Exactly that.
Okay. Do you want to elaborate on this at all?
No.
Okay.
I think I made my point.
Okay. Very good. Well, it was great having you on the show, Skipper. Hopefully you'll call again far in the distant future. Okay, so we got Nick Allen messaging me on Skype, so we're going to mute XSplit really quickly and go to a quick break. And when we get back, we'll have Nick Allen, the CEO of CLG, on to talk about...
Can we maybe bump him to next week for more Skipper?
No more Skipper. We will be back in just a moment. All right, and we are back, joined officially by Nick Allen, the COO, Grand Poobah of CLG.
Hello.
He had the long play and fined CLG to the point where they were on the border of bankruptcy, had to take investment from an outside company that he would later get hired by so that he could run it. So hostile takeover.
He fined them so bad that it was basically like he was paying himself, so they just added him to the company.
Yeah.
Right. No, I'm still the dividends, they're still there.
All right. So, Nick Al, do you want to explain who you are and what you do for those that don't know?
Yeah, sure. I am the COO of. Wow, Travis, are you echoing?
He's echoing a little bit. Yeah.
And Mark, you just deal with that? You don't even say anything?
He's a special boy, and sometimes you pick your battles.
Listen, I come and I put on the pink light and I get ready for the show, and you echo Jesus, dude.
This is the kind of no nonsense attitude I expect out of you when you're on CLG.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's definitely not my personal relationship with Travis at all. Wow, Mark, this is what you put up with.
Yeah.
It's funny. Last week I tuned in. I'll get to me in a second. I got a few things to say first. Just I tuned in last week, and I was like, look at the color scheme. Look at the marketing that's going on for the show. Wow, Travis really goes all out. And then the first 15 minutes of the stream are him just trying to get everything working. Just everything's broken. Nothing changes, Travis. Some things always stay the same.
So, Nick, would you like to talk a little bit about what you do at CLG for those that don't know?
Sure. I am the COO, Chief Operating Officer of CLG, and I oversee the business side of the company.
Okay.
And so everything from revenue and merchandising and sponsorships and content. Ooh, I'm fading out. I'm fading back in. I oversee all of those things.
Nice. Very good. Well, we're hopeful that you can talk a little bit about your roster. We'll maybe talk to you for a little bit, and then we'll take some calls from people. But we can start off by just asking, why do you hate Afromu?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question. I love Afromu. Tough week for CLG. We're all really big fans of Zach. The free agency period was aggressive and provided a lot of opportunity for a lot of players. And though I'm not sure where Zach and where Afromu's going, and I really wish he was, still with the team in a lot of ways. I'm excited to see where he lands and what he does going forward. I'm sure he has a really big opportunity in front of him.
Yeah. So, Mark, I don't know if you want to hop in here with any questions.
Yeah, so I think a lot of the things that fans are concerned about from a gameplay perspective, of course, is who's going to kind of fill that void that he had. I know Darshan and who he have been, people have said that they're vocal and that they can step up and do it, but how much are you expecting out of the two new guys in Reignover and Biofrost and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, good question. And I think I'm mildly to moderately equipped to answer the question, but I think a big part of it is we're going to understand once Bio and Reignover get in the dynamic of the team and understanding, who's playing what roles. So Zach Afromu did a lot of the late game shot calling, and a lot of the early game was a little bit back and forth between him and then the jungle. So it's a little bit of wait and see. So who he has a lot of experience shot calling, we think he's going to be stepping up in a big way, and how that sort of coexists with Reignover, I think is something that we're going to figure out in the next, once they get into the house and over the next couple to few weeks before the start of the season.
Yeah.
It's not like an easy transition by any means. It's not like we're bringing in someone who's filling the exact role that Zach filled. But we feel confident in our ability with the new guys, with our head coach Tony and his strategic mind, being able to put really good shot calling together, and so we're pretty fired up about it.
Yeah, who is making, whenever we see these changes happening, how is the decision making process going behind the scenes, and sort of who's involved with it at CLG?
And this is in regards to the player stuff.
Yeah, roster changes and that kind of thing. How did Biofrost end up on the roster and that kind of thing? Yeah,
it's a team effort, and so we spend a lot of time. We have spreadsheet that has a bunch of information on it and like depth charts around players and how they what their skills and their strengths are and how they're going to fit in with our current roster. So we evaluate the field super broadly, and then we make decisions based on who we think again is going to be the best for our team, who's going to fit in with our roster, our culture, right, and how our team communicates and how they play with each other. And so it's myself, it's a lot of Tony, and it's a lot of Matt Nashua, who's our director of eSports, helping to drive like, who are our top prospects, who we really looking to bring in. And then it starts to become a little bit of like divide and conquer. Like I'm talking to some teams and Matt's talking to some teams to understand like players that are available, like, what are people what moves are they looking to make? How do we sort of be in a good spot as, if like TSM brings in a new bot lane, right, there's going to be, and as a result, a new jungler, there's going to be like a waterfall of effect across the league, and trying to understand how these things are going to play out and how to position CLG in the best spot possible.
Yeah.
And so it is a lot of, it's way more work than I think one person can handle, because you have to do so much research. You have to do so much communication with all these other teams to understand what the right move is.
And kind of along that, working with Tony, this is your first time like working with him directly, right?
Yeah. So he was relatively new to CLG, or he wasn't like as sort of forward facing, I guess, or sort of outspoken as he when I was around working at Riot, though like a decent amount. But yeah, this is the first time I've gotten to like really work deeply with him and understand how he thinks about the game, how he thinks about building the team, strategy, and that sort of thing. But it's only been a couple months up to this point.
Right. So how's it been with him? Because he's someone I think a lot of the community holds in high regard as potentially the best North American coach, at least domestic coach. Some people would say Song or Reaper above him, but at least a lot of people hold him in high regard. Is that something where you're like, yeah, Tony's 100% the guy. We love this guy 100%?
Yeah, it's interesting being in my position, because part of it is about trust, right? Like, he knows way more about the game than I can ever begin to imagine. And there's some things that I can sort of poke holes in, which is like logic and systems and how he structures his team and what he's prioritizing. But at the end of the day, he's going to be the one that says like, these guys are good for our team and these are the reasons why. And some of those things I get, and a lot of reasons, like, I was a gold level player at best. I'm just barely going to understand what he's saying. So a lot of it is trust, but the way that he thinks about things, his logical approach, how he thinks about more than just the game itself, but all the macro things outside of the game, like communication and mindset and systems and process and motivation and discipline, all of these things he holds in a super high regard. So I've actually been really impressed coming in, talking to him about just his level of knowledge around the game, but also how to form and shape 5 guys into something that's cohesive and well-oiled and just works really well together. And so, it is like top to bottom, the way that he thinks about the game and the way he thinks about the team is pretty incredible.
Hey, Z-Raider X and Twitch chat asks, do players get any input into roster changes, or is it all decided by team staff?
I think it's different team to team. But we do like talk to the players about who they think is good, who do they think is going to mesh well. They definitely have some input into the overall decisions. And it's just like making sure that, one, they're not like taken off guard, I think, a lot of time by like who we're going to be bringing in, but they also have valuable contributions to make.
Yeah.
And so it's different player to player and team to team, but for us it is like hey, what do you think about this? Like, is this a right move? Like, who would you be prioritizing? What are the things that you think are important for the way that we as a team approach the game, and how we're formed, and the processes and the systems we have, who will fit in well to this? And so there is definitely input there too.
Yeah.
So one of my questions has to do a little bit about CLG before you got there. Last year they did like this boot camp at some training facility, I don't remember, and they really pushed healthy body, healthy mind, healthy person, kind of thing. How much do you buy into that kind of idea? As obviously it's good to be healthy, I'm not saying that, but in terms of how much is worth putting into a system like that, and how much is just nitty gritty, play a lot of League of Legends, and where do you think you guys are going to try and allocate all your resources?
Yeah, good question. The physical performance, like the mentality, the self improvement aspects of CLG culture are something that I believe in deeply and is really embedded deeply within CLG. I think like we've seen results of players, and this is, I guess I'm new 2 months, right? But coming in and talking to folks about how they choose to use their time, we've seen players perform better, perform longer, have a better mentality when they are really physically fit and on top of stuff, right? And I think that goes both physical and mental. When they feel like they're learning not only in game but out of game, they just perform better. They have a better mentality. Now, I think there is a balance to be struck of like, and a big question on how much do we index in that? How much do we take away from the in game for the out of game? And I think that's something where I bring a pretty data-informed approach to a lot of decision making, where we can try to strike that balance and figure out what is the right blend. But I know, like before and after, when players are going to the gym, when they are just feeling better, they perform better. And again, I think at the end of the day, they're gonna have more resilience. They're gonna have more stamina, and they're just gonna be better players overall.
Yeah. Speaking of health.
Yep.
Tasty Snack in the Twitch chat says Nick put on some weight since he joined CLG. I was just curious, what do you think of that statement?
I think it's true.
Okay.
I heard you guys had the best chef in the LCS.
Our chef is incredible. We also have some pretty good snacks. And I haven't been getting out as much as I would like since I moved to LA.
Okay, but on a more serious note, I want to ask you.
But thanks. I think it's a hot topic.
This is more on the business side, and I don't know how comfortable you are talking about this. But one thing that I feel, and I've only gotten glimpses of this from kind of talking about or hearing people out behind the scenes.
Yep.
Okay, in the past, it feels like teams basically tried to acquire talent by what they thought was best for their roster, and it didn't really matter anything else because, player salaries were whatever, and, everybody is probably within, $100,000 of each other, maybe. So maybe last year we started to see some inflation. But this year I see a lot of player and roster announcements, and a lot of people wondering why these roster announcements went the way they did, or why we saw rosters get built in certain different ways. And for me, despite the fact that everybody understands that like TL is obviously paying a lot for talent, there's not as much discussion around like, oh, maybe they got this roster because they have this one really expensive player and they couldn't go out and get like a ton of really expensive players or whatever. So I'm very curious as a team owner, and I'm going to ask some of the other owners about this too, how much, and we can talk just in generalities about the league scene in general, how much do you actually think player salaries and all that stuff is playing into roster decisions, and is it very different than maybe what it was before?
Good question. I think there's both sides of the coin. I think you look at TL, who's gone out and seemingly, I'm not sure all the details, but invested significantly into player salaries and buyouts going into next season. Obviously, money is not, and budget is not a concern of theirs, or at least they feel like they have the business model to sustain that type of spending. And then I think you have, and I'm not going to name any names, I do think there's probably people in the league that are much more budget conscious, that are not going out and spending tons of money until they see some of those revenue streams start to come in, right? If I'm like one of the new teams and, I'm thinking about, do I spend $1 million or $5 million? I worry about like, how fast can I spin up my merchandising? How fast can I spin up media rights and all these, and the sponsorships too, right? Like there's a bunch of things that take a lot of work to get into. And so if I'm coming in at year one, I'm thinking maybe I slow played in year one, and as I ramp these things up, and then as I understand how much money I'm going to be bringing in, then I can really, I'm going to really move forward with, larger investments. And so I think it's both. And I think there are some people, I also think there's different approaches and business models. I think some people, like the brand and recognition of being number one is above all the most important thing, and then like sustainability is important for other team owners as well. So I think there's a balance between the two, but I do think there are a lot of teams thinking about the budget as they go into this season. I imagine everyone, if they could, would want like a god tier team, like potentially like as TL is being considered, but not everyone can afford to do that.
And let's it's just, by the way, for chat and Discord, if you guys can start filling up chat with questions for Nick or statements or arguments. We've got a couple people already, but we're gonna be going to those in just a second. The follow up to that though, Nick, right before we go in, and feel free, Mark, to hop down and start listening to people's shit. But Nick, do you think that owners or teams should start because fans are going to question, why does the roster look like this? Mm-hmm. And in a lot of situations, you have owners, at least in the past, they're like, well, we really believe in these players. We believe in this lineup. There's a synergy here. There's whatever. We want to build a long-standing thing. Obviously, you have situations now, or seemingly obvious, where budget and finances are playing a role in it. Do you think that owners and teams should start, at least in some way, even if it's kind of casually in an interview, start communicating hey, there's a lot of reasons we did this, and by the way, it's because we're not interested in spending $5 million or whatever on a roster?
Yeah, I think one of the unspoken, or one of the things that is sort of downplayed or is talked about, at least behind the scenes, is usually fans aren't really receptive to oh, we didn't want to spend money in a direction, right? I think the finances, while interesting, aren't the most compelling reason to do or not to do things, though behind the scenes there's an entire business that needs to be run. I do think it's helpful, right? I do think the insider baseball, the really hardcore fans, the diehards, do want to know why teams are shaping up the way that they are, how they formed, what are the strategies. And I think talking about the finances is one way or one strategy to discuss, but there's a lot of different things to discuss in that discussion, right? Including communication, culture, systems, strategy. Do we need a more cerebral player in a specific position, or do we need a more mechanically talented player, and how they complement other players on the team? So I think there's a lot of different things to talk about, but I personally think it's valuable, and we plan to in the future, being forward with this is why and how we've built the organization or built the team. What do we prioritize? How did we land where we are?
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, I think it's time to ask questions or bring people in to chat with Nick. Super fascinated to see how this goes. And what happens with Nick. Either way, our first guest is Ninja.
Before we hop into that, remember, everybody, if you want to talk to Nick, ask him a question, pout about Afro not being here anymore, whatever it is, just make sure you put it in the Discord. If you want to do !Discord, figure out how to join. All that is in the Twitch chat. Anyways, there you go, Travis.
And right now we're joined by Ninja Sirs. Ninja Sirs, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from New Zealand.
From New Zealand.
Wow.
All right, Nick.
Folks, what's
Your
up, man?
first conversation from New Zealand. Ninja, what did you want to talk to Nick about?
I'd like to talk about how CRG just lost F, and he's one of CRG.
Oh, we're losing you, Ninja. Can you repeat
that
it
was
again?
really choppy.
I'd like to talk about how Afro just left CLG, and he was a huge part of CLG's marketing to a point with streaming and videos.
Right.
So what is your specific question for him?
Is CLG going to look to pump more streamers into the...
So I think the question is, Nick, with Aframu being such a big personality and identity of CLG's marketing and all that stuff, how are you going to sort of address the gap that he's lost or
Gotcha.
has left?
Yeah, I think we've been pretty fortunate to be bringing in a couple charismatic and personable players in Bio and Reignover. I think top priority for us above all else is winning. It's obviously the most important thing, and there is a lot of value in the marketing and the relatability of players, and we definitely think that's something that we need to continue to grow in and expand in and improve on. And so I think the best way to market our players is to win, and that's what we're prioritizing. But beyond that, we're ramping up our content organization, our content strategy. We put out some really cool stuff for our roster announcement and our farewell to Zach. And so I think that, and we're continuing to expand how we market our players, how they are strategic in the ways and the times that they stream and create YouTube content. So we're going to be doing a lot of work to help them be as visible as possible, and we're going to win NALCS, and we're going to grow tons of fans, and we're going to have a huge following as it relates to that, and that's going to help too. It's undeniable that Afro Moo was a big part of our brand, and is a big part of the bloodline of CLG. And again, we do wish him the best going forward, but we do feel good about the guys that we're bringing in, how they're going to do in front of a camera, how they're going to fit in with the CLG culture, and how they're going to promote that going forward. So I think this is a long-winded answer to, we have a lot of cool things planned in content and marketing to help really level up the guys that we've brought in. We feel excited about it.
Cool. Thanks, Ninja Sirs, for the call, and hopefully the oceanic internet gets better. All right.
Geez.
So, by the way, Zixlal and Twitch chat says, when we were considering our roster, we really found that we wanted more people that enjoy karaoke. So I think that's what it is. It's just going to be more CLG singing, karaoke, that kind of thing. Also, Emily Rand is saying that Chinese teams have found great success by marketing pets and creating stuff around pets. So could we see CLG get a pet in the future?
No comment.
No comment. Okay,
I'm allergic to cats, though.
You're allergic to cats?
Yeah. Sorry,
Okay.
guys.
So
No
if you do get a pet, it's going to be a dog.
That's not true.
Okay.
What other legal animals can you
Ferrets?
have? Yeah, it's going to
All
be.
right, I'm jumping in.
Okay.
we
got
were
Washer
ready to go
joining
for
the
a little
call.
bit, but Jesus.
Washer, where are you calling from?
Washington, D.C., where there are almost 0 esports events.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that is
Did they
actually
do a
very
Mario
true.
Kart tournament at the Rose, the Blossom event? Anyway, I think
What?
they did.
What do you got for us, Washer?
I'm going to say, okay, I'll just go down my point. I'd preface this by saying I love Afro. I think he's one of the greatest of all time, and CLG will miss him.
Undoubtedly.
I feel sad. I felt especially sad after the post on our CLG criticizing him the last month. I'm not naming names, so we know those posts.
It was Travis.
Yeah.
Sure.
I'm not immune from being hypercritical of CLG in the past either.
Yep.
That said, I think this is the best CLG roster since at least summer 2016, and I'm going to go down the roster to say why. Let's start with Darshan.
Please.
He's pretty good. I mean, he's easily top 3 top laners, or top 4, depending on who you ask. He's second in goal differential and first in KDA last split. Hui doesn't have the best laning phase, but you've seen those teamfight moments. You know he's easily one of the best mids in North America. Stixay to a lesser degree, but on his peak, he's easily the best teamfighting ADC in the West. And Bio, well, he's pretty good. He has the second highest KDA last split. But this team is a teamfighting team. They aren't really the best early game team, and that's where Reignover comes in. See, Reignover is the best early game jungler in NA, barring Lyra. He's the highest GD at 10 and the second highest XP at 10 among starting junglers past. But he's not going to pass 15 minutes. But this is CLG's team fighting. We can easily keep him that as strong. And you've seen with Fnatic, you've seen it.
Yeah.
So Reignover brings everything together with a good early game and leads us to great, basically amazing late game. But there are problems. Our number one problem is shot calling. But we've learned from the best in Afro, and I'm sure Bio has learned some macro skills from being on TSM the last 3 splits. And of course, we also have the best coach in the LCS with Zix when his drafts aren't terrible, which is unfortunately sometimes. But let's look at the other teams. See, the other teams have problems too. C9, Licorice could easily bomb. Sven could easily regress. This could be I might say it, this could be the year where Sneaky falls off. TSM, okay. Mike Young could be in a bad meta the entire split. He could turn to another ward bot, and Zen Miffy could clash with Bjerg because that dynamic is different. And TL, I collect Sports Illustrated covers, and I remember in 2012 when the Lakers got Magic Johnson and Steve Nash, and people were hyping them up like fucking crazy.
Yeah.
So then they crashed and burned. I'm seeing the same thing with TL. I think Doublelift is the Magic Johnson, or not Magic Johnson. Who's Dwight Howard?
Yep.
Dwight Howard basically turned the entire team into a toxic mess, and I could see Doublelift coming out, especially reuniting with some people in CLG. So that's why I think CLG is easily poised.
Washer, were you paid by Nick to come on here, or are you a CLG employee?
Did Tony write up those bullet points?
Yeah,
for you?
I feel
see
like
Tony
you
going
just
nuts in
listed
the
off.
chat.
It's like
This is
we're here to talk
perfect.
to Nick, and you're like, "Yep, CLG's gonna win everything."
I appreciate it. Keep going.
So I got a question. How much weight do you put behind KDA for why you think someone is a great player?
I think for team fights it's a valid statistic, but it isn't the best early game statistic at all.
And you don't think it's at all influenced by wins?
I think it is, but wins are influenced by people. Well, wins are what you should be striving for in the end, anyways.
Okay. I was just wondering because most people will contend that KDA is a pretty garbage stat to use when arguing about a player's skill. Just so you know in the future.
I think it depends on. I think it depends on the argument in itself and where.
Washer, how long have you been a CLG fan?
About since season. I've been a big CLG fan since season 4, casual since like season 3.
Okay. What did you think of the news of CLG hiring Nick Allen?
I thought it was unexpected because we all saw the Nick Allen vibes in season 3 with the whole fine memes. But
All right.
I mean, he's definitely one of the best in the business.
Okay, very good.
Thanks.
So do you have anything bad to say about the
Send
CLG
me your PayPal
organization
address.
or anything that they do?
Jeez.
I have criticisms of CLG. I think that their subreddit can get toxic at times. I think that some people in the back room aren't the best, but I'm not going to name names.
Okay, very good. Well, at least we got some criticism. Washer, do you have any questions for Nick or anything you'd like to tell him? Any advice or something?
Keep doing what you're doing.
Okay,
Thanks, dude.
very, very good. Well, thank you, Washer, so much for joining. That was
Appreciate
informative. I've learned so much. Have a good time, and hopefully you get some esports stuff in Washington, D.C. Cool. All right, so you moved him into subs. I think he needs to go. Okay.
Oh, sorry. I just threw it the closest one.
Yeah. It was
Oh,
intense. It was intense. Okay, Nick,
I liked him.
how much did you pay that guy?
Bring him back. 100 bits.
Okay.
Nick,
100 bits.
do you agree that you won the offseason?
I think dollar for dollar, we have the strongest roster in the LCS, and I think we are positioned to take number 1 next year. So yes, we did.
Nick also believes they won the offseason. Now it's the rest of the rant. Nick, go. You remember it word for word?
I don't, but I will cherish it in my heart forever.
Oh God! All right, I'm gonna hop down and get the next guy, Travis.
Sure. How you doing, Nick?
I'm good. How are you?
How's the work-life balance been for you since you joined?
Because
Because you went straight in, then you guys had to apply for LCS stuff and go through that whole process. Now off-season has hit, so I assume it's been exciting.
it has been a lot of work, but luckily there's a lot of really talented people at CLG that are really pulling a lot of late hours and doing a lot of hard work. And so,
None of them are you.
None of them are me,
Okay.
and none of them are you, Travis.
Yeah,
as
that's
well.
true. That's true.
Because
Because I don't want to work for you. That's a terrible idea.
Yeah, I mean, like honestly, with like the announcement stuff with the players, I had very little to do. Like I was, trying to bring in the players, but a lot of that was, driven by the content team and our marketing team, and they just knocked it out of the park, and they worked pretty crazy hours to make it happen. So, and I had basically nothing to do with that. So they did a really, really good job.
All right,
And so
Mark.
it's okay. I'll say work-life balance.
We got Holy Cow Barbecue joining in right now. Holy Cow Barbecue, where are you calling from?
Hey, I'm from West Virginia.
West Virginia. All right, very good. What do you got for us?
All right, so I'm a huge CLG fan as well, just like the previous guy. And I just want to know about, budget coming from MSG sponsorship. Obviously, no detail will be given, but does it allow you to grab a lot better talent? And if so, how do we not keep maybe say Afro? Because as rumor has it, the contract he was offered was pretty substantial, or was it because you guys think Afro wasn't as good as Biofrost? And yeah,
Nick, you've got all this money from Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
Why aren't you spending it?
Great question. Yeah, thanks, man. So MSG has been hugely helpful. So we leverage a lot of their resources, including their sponsorship team, aka their marketing partnerships team, and they come with. Oh, is that Mark?
No,
that's not me,
Holy
dude.
Cow Barbecue. You're typing.
Sorry, Holy Cow Barbecue.
Sorry, my
That's
bad.
okay.
It's okay, dude.
It's exciting.
It sounds like a really nice keyboard. If that
were those green switches or brown switches or red? I don't know the colors.
I don't care about this.
CLG
Get
blue
back
switches.
into
I was gonna say it sounded like blue.
Nick. Where's
Anyway,
the money?
I digress. So we leverage a lot of G's resources. So the marketing partnerships team, aka the sponsorships team, a lot of their like internal teams that support the Knicks and the Rangers. We get to tap into them and learn from them. But it's not an overnight flip a switch and in comes all of this experience and learnings. Like it's a process to understand who are the right people to talk to and how can they help us and what's the most effective way for their learnings to be carried over to MSG. And so it is a process, but it's been going really well so far. We are taking everything one step at a time in terms of like sponsorships and revenue and understanding what the dynamic is going to be between MSG and CLG. Like how do we leverage these resources, and then once we do, how does that affect our revenue at a high level? And so we have really high hopes, and we're actually making a lot of really good progress in that regard. But just like anything, and like I'm trying to relate this back to the question and talking about Afremu, we're still responsible for building a sustainable business. And so what that means is making good decisions around how we invest in not only players, but also infrastructure. And so it would be foolish of us, I would say, to go out and be like, hey, we have MSG at our back. Let's like spend foolishly on all these different things, right? We still want to be calculated and careful with the way that we do those things so that we can maintain a strong business and a presence in esports as a team long term. And so I would say MSG at our back, whether they're there or not, I don't think there would be a different outcome with Zach, if that makes sense. I would say that he has some really great opportunities in front of him, and having MSG there did not necessarily impact our decision whether or not to go in that direction. So, but we are again really excited for him, and it sounds like he has some pretty great opportunities in front of him.
Thanks, Holy Cow Barbecue. Hope things.
Good question.
Yeah.
Tough question.
Thanks.
I want to ask more.
Okay, we'll give you one follow-up.
All right. So obviously, with the Afremu gone now, who's gonna be your star player? Is it gonna be Huhi? Is it gonna be Zion, or are you gonna make a star out of Reignover? And I like the.
I thought you're the power of friendship.
Yeah, it is, but Biofrost just seems so chill. That he doesn't seem like to have a lot of characteristic on screen, at least. Seems
How
pretty
dare
chill.
you say that to his face?
Who's the next big CLG star, Nick?
No, I think everyone is stars, but I think the true star of CLG is Tony, the head coach.
If everyone's a star, Nick, no one's a star. You gotta pick one.
Yeah.
Who are you gonna push to the fans this split?
Yeah, the KDA will reveal itself as to the stars, because isn't that a value of skill, Mark? Isn't that what you just said?
It's the number one thing I'd look at.
Like we're gonna actually be blowing up marketing and content for all these guys. We're excited about it. They're all gonna have like a unique approach to things, and that includes merchandising and content and a few other things too. So I can't answer your question. I think everyone's stars. I love them all equally. I think it's the responsible thing for me to say.
I love you, man. Thank you.
I love you.
COG number 1.
West Virginia. Let's go.
All right.
That's what you said, right? West Virginia?
Yeah, I think West Virginia.
Yeah. Hey, Mark, I dropped a couple names in the Skype chat, and also we're working on getting a special guest calling in. We'll see if he's able to make it. I got a text message a second ago, and I didn't realize that they were on. So, Mark, if you want
I'll check with the guy here.
Yeah. Cool. We got a couple things going. You know what time it is, Nick? Time to read out thanks some subs. Hit streak.
Good.
Donated 400 bits. Cheer 400 Nick Allen. Big fan. Boba Cola arguing with Skipper with bits, I think. All sorts of crazy stuff going down. Soret resubbed. He doesn't like Discord, or he or she doesn't like Discord, but they said they'll resub. We got Dr. Manhattan himself from that one comic that I forget, Watchmen?
The Watchmen.
The Watchmen.
Yeah. Dr. Manhattan, what planet are you calling from?
I am calling from the nation's capital in Washington, D.C.
Oh, another Washington, D.C.
Another
We've got multiple Washington, D.C. people. You need to hang out with the other CLG fan that called earlier and talk about stuff.
Forgot his name, but I wish I didn't.
I will not be as hypercritical. I'm actually not even that big of a league expert in terms of the macro, so
okay.
I'll be kind of casual.
You don't need to be. Just say some numbers.
Yeah.
853.
Yeah, there you go.
750. 750 out of 750.
So what I want to talk about mainly is my main thing about CLG.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly think that this is probably of all the top 4 orgs right now. So let's see, people are hyping up TL for obvious reasons. People are hyping up TSM with the Mike Young and the G2 bot lane pickups. People obviously with C9 knowing their fan base is always hyping them up. Maybe they're a bit sullied with the Svenskeren pickup, knowing how much they loved contracts and how Impact was such a big, but that's them. I want to talk about mainly how CLG, people are kind of sleeping on them compared to most of them, and I think that this is legitimately a championship roster, knowing where they're shifting some of their stuff, if they can get it together mainly, but, where they're shifting, the way the team plays, knowing Reignover's shot calling presence within the team, and yeah.
So talk to me a little bit about what you mean by slept on, because I think a lot of people are still putting CLG in the top half of the league. You're saying they're a championship contending team versus what I think a lot of people are putting them at as a 4th or 3rd place team. You feel like that's actually slept on, or do you think it's maybe just?
I think people aren't giving them the proper. I mean, yeah, they're a top 4 team, and I think that most other some of these orgs, if you look at some of these other rosters, not naming names, if you look at some of these other rosters, there's a lot of people that are just basically putting a lot of stock in the top 4 right now. And the one that people are knocking off first, if you ask most people, all right, who is the weakest of these top 4 that we're looking at on paper? Most people are sleeping on CLG right now, in terms of just they're probably get 3rd, 4th place, maybe at best to get 2nd. But I think that I think you mentioned earlier that Biofrost is mechanically better than Afromoon. In terms of his presence on the team, that will reveal itself later on, but. Reignover is a pretty solid addition, and I think that if Huhi and Darshan look remotely the way they did in the past summer, because the past summer they had a huge resurgence, especially Huhi, who I was very pleasantly surprised by in his performance. But if we can get that remnant of CLG where they 3-0 Dignitas, they beat Cloud9 in both their series in the regular season. This is legitimately one of the strongest rosters I've seen since when Pobelter and Doublelift were on the team, which I think was probably the last time I was genuinely excited by CLG.
Nick Allen, I think you just have a bunch of fans that have joined. I think that part of the problem is this show got advertised in the CLG subreddit, and so now
I don't know what you're talking about.
Disclosure, actually, I'm actually I'm a diehard C9 fan, but CLG is one of those teams.
Kick him out of here!
Don't find me, Nick. Please don't find me, Nick. But
so Dr. Manhattan, are you okay? You decided to join and talk to Nick tonight, and you're hype about the CLG roster. Is there a chance that you're going to switch over, or maybe you can? Maybe this is.
Woo you over?
I'm very curious.
To the dark side.
Is there a chance you'll switch, and what does Nick need to do to switch you over to CLG fandom?
I mean, I've been watching C9 since the original Quantic roster, so I mean, I have that nostalgia factor in terms of watching high end videos. So, yeah. But to be fair to you, Nick, when I went to Boston, I went to the Boston final and the 3rd place game, I did buy a CLG jersey, and I do have that. So, at least if there's a way for me to sully that wound, I guess.
Nick, can you give Dr. Manhattan a reason to be a CLG fan instead of a C9 fan, especially for next split?
Wow. Solidarity.
Okay, well, sounds like C9 fandom it is.
I think that's a really good reason.
Just make one of them become a sneaky streamer. Just make someone dress up.
We have the best roster probably in the history of the NALCS, if I was to guess. We have the most attractive team present company excluded. Okay,
Yeah.
I don't sway them because this isn't pretty. Most attractive roster as well. Like when you have those two things combined, what's not to like?
Yeah.
Answer me this, Mark Z.
Where's your big streamer? Who can I tune into every day? Who's your superstar? Who am I gonna watch?
Who are you streaming earlier today?
He's gonna be the guy then.
Yeah.
I like Hoovy a lot.
They all have a strong streaming presence. You just got to tune in. You got to believe. You got to stick it out. Okay.
Dr. Manhattan, thanks for the call.
Thanks,
Given Nick.
Can I just get like a final thought, just kind of like just to throw the kind of like
Sure.
You have 10 seconds before I move you. Go.
Okay, yeah. What if the most criticized members of TSM, and Svenskarian, Doublelift, and Bio, what if they all make Worlds this year in 2018, and somehow TSM misses out?
Ooh, that's a spicy one.
Ooh, spicy. I
like
like
that.
it.
All right. Well, thanks for the call. Mark, you might have seen who I added to the waiting room. Maybe you
Yes,
can,
I did.
You can go investigate his stuff. By the way,
hold on a second.
there is if you are a Twitch Prime member, you can sub to this channel right now. Dr. Manhattan actually a sub. We grabbed him out of the subs room, so thanks for your sub, Dr. Manhattan. And Mr. Barbecue himself, who called in moments before, sub shortly thereafter. Twitch Prime subs help us out. And we should be having somebody joining us in just a moment.
I was going to say, just to answer his question real quick there, I actually think TSM is under a ton of stress just because to do the worst that a TSM roster has ever done internationally, it means that like you would just have to not make finals. Like their barrier for like what is acceptable for them is so fucking high compared to like any other team in the league. So like if these guys go 5 games in semifinals, barely lose, and then win third place super convincingly, that's still a failure, like a colossal failure, I think people would say. Anyways, I think
tough.
it's interesting.
Yeah.
Right, it's like a lose-lose because if they're not winning, right, and they keep their roster, it's bad. And they get criticized for keeping it. And then drastic changes, they get criticized for that. So,
by the way,
they are in a super
really
tough
quickly,
spot.
Mark, before you duck down, Reggie just tweeted, "Forget TSM versus CLG. They are a dead brand. It's TSM versus Team Liquid next split. Hashtag LOL eSports. Hashtag NALCS. Hashtag TSM win."
Nick's going on Twitter right now to fire back, getting the CLG media guy on it.
Yeah. Nick, do you have a response for the?
I think Reggie would have tuned in for this episode if there was a real team who was, the third guest. But we have CLG instead,
Yeah, I think TSM and TL will be the rivalry for 4th place.
It's gonna be a hell of a 3rd, 4th place match, huh?
A hell of a match down at the bottom. Yeah.
All right, let me go get the special guest.
Oh, I'm so excited for this special guest.
It's a great day for you, Nick. Checking in on it. We got a guest during the show in just a moment, and here it is. Noah Whinston. Is this your first time calling? Where are you from? What's your story? Why don't you let us know?
I'm just a poor lost boy living in Los Angeles, but not in LCS.
A poor lost boy living. Hey, listen, Noah. We've all been there. 1 minute you have a job, and then a telecom comes in, or somebody else ends up killing it. Then you're spending your your Monday nights with Mark and Nick Allen. It's just a tough time.
Look, Travis, I learned my lesson from your example, and I invented this great thing called backup options. That's why
backup
Los
options,
Angeles
yeah.
Valiant is going to take over the world.
Yeah, people kept telling me to do that, and also a savings account. People kept telling me to have one of those too, and I just none of that.
Dude, you're an esports journalist. You can't afford that.
No, of course not. Okay, Noah, what do you got? What are your thoughts on CLG? What are your thoughts on Nick Allen? What do you want to put out there?
What are my thoughts on CLG? I mean, my thoughts on CLG is that my boy Eugen is back, playing on starting roster again, and I can't ever root against Reignover. He's just a precious little flower, and I love him so much.
So you're a CLG fan too?
We're gonna take real good care of him, dude.
Look, I can't say I'm a CLG fan. I'm sorry. You only got one of the former IMT guys.
Yeah.
I think you can say that if you want. I think it's okay.
Look, I can't, right? Like, there are too many teams with just a larger quantity of former IMT players. You got TL with 3 former IMT players.
That's true.
You got FlyQuest also with 3 former IMT players and multiple former IMT staff members. So, my heart goes out in a lot of different directions.
I got a great question here, actually, I think. So, coming from Immortals to TL. Obviously, Reignover struggled, didn't look like himself, had a lot of issues. Now on to CLG. What do you think went wrong at TL, Noah? And like, do you have any advice, potentially based off that, for
Please.
Nick Allen that would help Reignover succeed in CLG?
Yeah, for sure. So, look, I don't know everything that goes on behind the scenes at different teams, so I don't want to make assumptions about the way that TL worked or the way that CLG works. So everything is kind of speculation. Let me know if I'm off base. But I think when TL picked up Reignover, the impression I got was that they kind of expected him to be like this high level shot caller, or even if not high level, like a similar level shot caller where he's just like microing and macroing people around the map, and it's just like taking full control of the game. And I love Eugen, I love Reignover, but that's just like not the kind of player he is. And so I think the role that he was put into on TL was like not the best role for him. Like, he's a super communicative player, but he communicates in a different way than that. And I think on CLG, given that like all those players that he's playing with have significant macro knowledge, right? Like, all of them have played with very experienced players before, or they are very experienced players already. I think that's the kind of environment that he thrives more in, as opposed to an environment in which he's kind of the veteran with a bunch of rookies around him that aren't as experienced or knowledgeable as he is.
So my follow-up question would be then, with the loss of Afromu, is this a concern that Nick Allen should have, that maybe Reignover might struggle, given that they just lost what was supposedly the most vocal member of the team?
Well, again, I can only go by what I know behind the scenes, but from what I've talked to some people about, right, I think on CLG it was a lot more of a team effort than maybe people have kind of given credit for on social media. It wasn't just like Afro microing everybody around. It's not Afro in the four wards, right? So a lot of that macro knowledge that Afro has from being a super experienced player ends up getting imparted onto Darshan or Stixxay or Huhi, and they carry that forward with him, right? Like, it's not like he's just talking about macro and going in one ear and out the other. They absorb that. And you got Tony, too, who's super experienced.
So right before you joined the call, we saw a other LCS owner, Andy Din of TSM, tweet, "Forget TSM versus CLG. They are a dead brand. It's TSM versus TL next split. Hashtag all esports, hashtag in LCS, hashtag TSM win." What are your thoughts on that statement? Is the TSM versus CLG rivalry dead? And is it all about TSM versus TL?
I mean, look, if the story of CLG over the last 5 years has proved anything, it's that no matter how close CLG gets to dead, as long as it can take one last breath, there's always a chance.
Okay.
I like it.
Like, you might not have Afro, you might not have Double, you might not have Xmithy, but like, y'all aren't dead yet.
Yeah. Noah is a former LCS team owner, and talking to Nick Allen here, who is a new LCS team owner, what kind of advice and wisdom do you want to share with them?
What kind of things are acceptable to say in a public forum? I would say, number one, you should always be friends with Andy Din, because then at least when his team beats you, he'll give you a hug. That's important.
Did he not give you a hug? Is that the lesson here? Was it?
No.
You were looking for a hug and you didn't give it?
For that hug.
Spring 2016, not friends, didn't get hugged.
Okay.
Summer 2016 was friends, got a hug, worth it.
Noah's a simple man. He just out for those hugs.
That's why he got into esports in the first place.
I was just pretty friendless, and I decided that esports was the place to make lots of friends. It worked great.
Hugs all around.
What else? Everything is harder than it seems right when you put the team together, but like, you've worked in esports for a long time, you already know that. I guess, like, as an extension to that, never take team environment for granted, right? Like, everything will be going super, super well, and all it takes is one little thing to derail the train. So you can't, unless you have someone that you fully trust, handle it completely on their own, and even then, like, always keep an eye on it, because in a heartbeat it can shift.
Oh, so you're saying you don't have anyone you can trust?
Well, look, I don't even have an LCS. So
it was muffled. For some reason you moved and your microphone got muffled, and it just made that part even better. You're like, I don't have an LCS turn, so.
Noah, so you initially came into the league, I think, right when Nick Allen left and joined Twitch. I think those timelines are pretty close together. Was that like a key factor for why you decided to, get in on the LCS right then? Was because the cancer that is Nick Allen was finally out of the Riot office?
I mean, you could put it that way. You could put it as Nick Allen leaving was just the first of many betrayals that I experienced in esports.
Oh, Jesus.
However you want to.
Oh, God.
I like the way that you put it the best.
Okay.
Nick, do you have anything for Noah here?
Good question.
When are you guys going to compete? Do you have any teams that compete in the same league or the same space right now?
CSGO.
Until recently, CSGO, I think actually one of Nick's players pulled the greatest off-the-field maneuver of all time when his tweet kind of pulled an inside takedown of the team.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Oh, you got to catch up on your history.
Yeah.
I try to stay away from Twitter as you can possibly imagine.
We're gonna breeze right past that. Smash still.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Smash. Go again in the future. Previously in Overwatch, they're not anymore because we're Overwatch League and CLG isn't, which I think should say everything that you need to know about the respective future of our organizations.
No comment.
And we have Dota, but CLG does not. So anytime you want to come get a Dota team, we have the only all Korean Dota team. So we'll wreck you.
Thanks.
Very good.
Sounds good.
Well, Mark, unless you have anything for Noah, or Noah, unless you have anything else for the group, I think it was good to chat with you.
Yeah, no, that's about it for me.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks for calling in, Noah. You have a lot of other concerns right now to deal with, but I don't have anything. So maybe we can grab lunch sometime in LA and talk about stuff.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Oh, you should have turned him down. There was 1,400 people to watch. You just shut down Travis.
Look, Travis has gone through a hard 6 months. I gotta give him one every once in a while.
And on that note, by the way, if you have a Twitch Prime sub or membership, you can sub to this channel for free. And that means Noah. Hopefully you have Twitch Prime. Anyway, thanks for calling in. We'll hear from you again in the future, I am sure. All right, so thanks again to Noah for calling in, friend of the show and former LCS owner. I think we got time for a couple more calls as we're getting closer to the 10 o'clock mark here on the Pacific West Coast. And while we're doing that, I do want to give a shout out to a couple of people. Swords Not Words subbed. Reveille subbed. Andres hosted me with one viewer. Thank you to that.
So we've heard a lot of nice things about CLG fans. We have someone who doesn't think CLG is going to do so hot this season, and maybe Nick can change his mind.
Yeah.
And it's Noah, and he's back.
Yeah.
It's Noah again.
Okay, we got Rico Burrito. Rico Burrito on the line with us. Where are you calling from, Rico?
I'm calling from Louisiana.
Louisiana. All right.
Nice.
Rico, what are your thoughts on CLG? We've heard so many people call in support of CLG tonight. What's your gripe?
I think this year it seems like CLG does seem like to have a bit of a lower tier than the rest of the new teams that are coming out in the new split.
Okay. And
right.
why do you think that?
Yeah.
Well, it seems like let me just go lane to lane. Like for top lane, like Darshan, sure, he does have his carry moments. But in this new meta with the new runes and all that, I feel like he's not going to have as much. It's going to be harder for him to carry because of all the new aspects coming out to the league this season.
Okay.
And then with mid lane, I think especially his pocket pick of Aurelion Soul did get a big nerf with the new sorcery, where it's old Storm Raiders, but it's actually been a bit nerfed, so it's not really the best. And with Reignover, I feel like it's just going to be a bit hard at first for communication, but that it could go better or for worse, but it's pretty much for communication at that point. And then in the bottom lane, I feel like Stixay could have his moments, but it's also to the point where the bot lane is just really weird right now. So I'm not so sure about that, but it seems
So-
like it's.
When
yeah,
you
can
say
go ahead.
communication, what do you mean by that? Because Reignover is fluent in English.
Well, I mean, like more of in the team aspect of communication.
Oh, okay.
It's not like not like sort of like he's Korean and all that, but it's more of communication at first because if they got him first, so he has to play first in order to realize if he's actually good with the team. So I feel like it's going to be a bit awkward at the beginning of the split, but I think that it could go on better, but it's just like a bit iffy of a gamble to get him with Reignover.
Nick, what is your rebuttal to this analysis of your team and perhaps its weakness?
Yeah, I think, Reignover being as a cerebral player as he is, I think he's going to bring a lot of strategic insight to the team, helping to shape like what's cutting edge, what's new, what's interesting, how do we take advantage of all the new things that are in place for this next season. That, and I think Darshan is a guy, generally speaking, that is pretty innovative in the way that he plays the top lane. He can carry, he can also he can be a role player as well. I just think it's really early to tell, but I think our team specifically has a lot of very talented, experienced people that have been through a ton of season changes and know how to identify top strategies extremely fast. And so I think with how smart these guys are, with our coaching staff and how smart they are, I think we're going to come out of the season or the start of the season having some of the most innovative and interesting stuff. I think more than that, as we think about our roster and we think about who we decided to bring in, some of it is like circumstance, but a lot of it is also like, how is this person going to blend with our organization? How are they going to do in communication? And like all these things I talked about earlier about culture and, like how they're going to exist in this CLG world. And we feel like we have 5 very like-minded individuals coming together for, this common purpose, which is just to win a lot. And so I think we're going to be in a really good spot. I think we're an innovative team. I think you're going to see a lot of interesting and cool things out of us as we continue to develop our infrastructure and our strategy going into the beginning of the season.
Very good. Well, hey, thank you so much for calling in, Rico Burrito. It's good having you on the show. We're going to start going through people pretty quick because we only got about 14 minutes or so left. And
so I was going to say, you ready to move off CLG? I mean, as much as I love talking about them because we have Nick Allen here, I think it's only fair we give some other people a chance. I don't know how you feel, Travis.
Yeah, sure. I mean, well, I do think any question that comes up should be somewhat something that Nick can answer, but happy to.
I mean, Nick knows everything going on in the league. If someone's going to come on here and say TSM sucks, Nick can easily say, I agree, right?
I wholeheartly agree, and here's 20 reasons.
Yeah.
Off the top of my head.
All right, very good. Well, if we've got some people in the waiting room, hopefully we can go for that. By the way, Hitstreak subbed to the channel. Appreciate that. Broken Chopsticks, Ovally herself, is now a sub of the Travis Gafford Twitch channel. Thank you, Broken Chopsticks.
What have you done?
All right, we got Azelis on the call. Azelis, where are you calling from?
Calling from Southern California.
Woo! Southern California.
Hey!
Beautiful.
Yes. Where you want to? You feel free not to clarify, but whereabouts in the Vegas terms of Southern California?
About 40 minutes away from you guys in Santa Monica.
Okay, cool.
How do you know I'm in Santa Monica?
Is that with traffic or without traffic in LA? Because that could be like 2 miles.
Probably with.
Yeah.
Is it 40 minutes or 40 miles?
40 minutes.
40 minutes.
Okay. Yeah,
so he's probably in like.
He's like Sherman Oaks or something.
No, he's at South, I think. So.
Oh, South. Okay.
I'm gonna go with like Torrance.
Oh no, I said out. Like.
Oh, out. Okay, so
what's
it could be
what's
anywhere.
your exact address?
We need. What's your phone number? All right,
Yeah.
Azelis, what do you got to talk to us about?
I just wanted to riff off the previous TSM caller. I think the roster changes were generally good. At first, I reacted to them pretty badly, but I think in general they're better for future growth.
So, sorry, this is for TSM, you're saying?
Correct.
Okay.
Right, because the person before had said that
Yes.
he thought that TSM wasn't going to do as well. So what makes you think that this is
Yeah,
going to go
why
well?
do you think Doublelift shouldn't be on TSM, Azalis?
Well, first of all, I like Doublelift, but
All right, you're getting better.
but I think now coming on 2 years with his performance in Worlds, I think it was time to make a change. I think first Worlds, obviously, you could just have a bad games, but the second Worlds, I think at that point, once you see them perform not so well, you have to make a change if you want to get better in the future.
Yeah.
So I think bringing on Mithy and Sven, it's when are you gonna have a chance to bring bot duo that are both English, that both speak English, and as well as are extremely battle tested.
And
Go ahead,
Mark.
Sorry, you go try. Okay, so I was gonna say this is for Nick now. Nick, do you like the moves that TSM made? Do you think it makes them better? And two, if you were the GM of TSM, what would you have done? Would you have done these moves just for the sake of change or whatever?
Good question. I think for them, I think the highs can be higher. I think it's higher risk, high reward, because I think Mike Young is I think pretty unproven. He obviously had like a really good split, and he was able to do a lot on his former team. But I think like he stood out a couple weeks, but he wasn't like completely demolishing everyone week after week. And so I think he has a high ceiling. It's there, and maybe with the right infrastructure and the right coaching and the right environment, he could do a lot. He might be able to do a lot better. But I think the other side is if he isn't able to contribute, right? If he is like the weak link on the team, that will be exploited. And then, I mean, jungle position obviously being as important as it is, will have pretty big impact on the team. So I think to me, it's up to how Mike Young performs. If he does well, I think TSM is going to do really well. But if he doesn't, I think it all sort of rests on his shoulder. Would I have done what they did? Probably not. I think I would have stuck with the bot lane, and I would have probably looked to make a change in the jungle. But I don't know.
And Sven again, dude.
No, I just think he's not a bad player, but I think if like I'm going to make a change to try to improve the roster overall, I think that's the change that you make. Though it's hard to say because he is so good. And so I guess I would have probably, if I was making a change, I would have looked for a different import jungler and kept the bot lane. But this is without me knowing like what is the dynamic like, behind the scenes. Like maybe there are some additional reasons behind the change, other than just bringing in Mithy and Sven. I don't know.
Yeah.
So no, I wouldn't have made the changes that they made. But I do think like if Mike Young gets it together, they can be pretty killer.
Very good. Hey, thanks Azalis for calling in. Giving a different insight on the TSM stuff. All right, so I think we've got about 4 more calls, and then we'll be done with this episode. So thanks everyone for watching. Stick around for these, and then I'll hang out on the stream a little bit afterwards. We got MK Swagger subbed, Polish subbed, and Matcom himself, the man, the legend, Matcom subbing, former CLG staff. All right. Probably the last 4 calls here, right, Mark?
Yeah, 3 or 4.
Yeah. Stickman Alv, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Arkansas.
Arkansas, okay.
I gotta say, the amount of like calls we get from the middle of the country is fairly surprising.
Yeah.
I don't know if you feel the same way. Maybe I'm just like...
I thought only liberal elites watched and played League of Legends.
That wasn't
from
my
the
point
coasts,
necessarily. I think
I agree completely with you, Mark.
You just need such
he
a
made
great...
He made it a political issue.
Yeah.
That's what happened. Real good, Travis. Way to alienate
Stickman,
your audience.
Stickman, what do you want to talk about?
I wanted to talk about Optic.
Okay, what about Optic? Greenwall. Are you part of the Greenwall?
I am not.
Okay.
I really only pay attention to League of Legends and Overwatch.
Okay.
So, but I really like that they pulled over Power of Evil, since he has a really good record against TSM, and if I'm a new org, that's who I would want to take down. And with Elimination and Zig on the team, I think that allows for some really cool draft opportunities.
Yeah, and we should say the only thing I believe that's confirmed right now is Zabutin and Arrow, but these are the rumored changes that are going in there.
Right. So the rumored roster is Zig, Acadian, Power of Evil, Arrow, and Elimination.
Yep, and Arrow confirmed everything else up. So we'll give Nick the out of saying, Nick, every time we talk to you about the roster, you're referencing this rumored roster. Who knows what you know or don't know? But so okay, so you were saying you really like this, right, Stick?
Yeah.
Okay. So how do you think? Earlier Mark and I were coming up with the top 4 teams. We did include Optic. Where do you think Optic could be next year with this supposed roster?
I think they should be a playoff team. I wouldn't necessarily put them in the top 4, but I think that seeing them in a best of 5 would be very interesting.
Okay. Nick, what do you think of this roster besides you saying like, oh, I think it could be really good? What do you actually think?
I think it could be pretty good.
Swapped out really for pretty there. That's
yeah, exactly. I think no one, obviously Arrow's quite talented, Power Evil's quite talented, has proven. Elimination, I think many would consider beyond his prime years, but still a very strategic mind for the team. Someone's singing in the house. Also, did my screen get darker? Darshan's singing, yeah. But I think to me on paper, this roster looks like one of the weaker ones to me. I think it's because there's no, as good as Power of Evil and Arrow are, the sum of all of these parts doesn't strike me as a super strong roster. I think all of these guys are good in their own right. And Zig has been playing the game forever, as well as I think, a lot of these guys, but no one stands out as someone who's gonna take the league by storm. And I think I have a hard time thinking that this sort of hodgepodge of players put together is gonna be really cohesive and sort of overcome a lot of the lack of individual skill, at least relative to the rest of the league. So I would put them sort of more bottom of the pack in my opinion, but these things have a way of coming back and biting me in the ass.
Yeah, so, you're gonna lose to Optic the first.
Yeah,
round.
exactly. First week Optic.
Yeah. I'm kind of in the Nick Allen boat here. I think Arrow has shown that if he doesn't have a decent support, he can get exploited in lane. That happened a lot in summer. I think Zig is also not particularly lane dominant. He usually has a stronger playmaking team fighting phase and kind of playing a role within the team than he does being strong in lane. And then maybe Acadian and Power of Evil I think would be your best kind of hope for having good synergy with some hopefully aggressive early mid playmaking jungle kind of thing, but it doesn't scream a team that has a cohesive play style just off the bat. And that's where you have my concern. Yeah. Because Lemon if you compare this to what you might have seen with Power of Evil on Misfits or something like that, they don't feel like they have the same level of playmaking between the mid and jungle, or the jungle and support positions, which is what Misfit relied on for Power of Evil to then scale better into the mid late game. Even though his laning phase is fine, he wasn't their early game playmaker, and I don't know who is other than Acadian on this team.
Hey Stick, thanks for calling in. It was good to talk about Optic. Appreciate the conversation. All right, so we got about 3 more callers going in, just churning and burning through people. And Nick, I noticed that you haven't subbed to the Twitch channel yet, and I'm just wondering, is it just a situation where MSG doesn't really, you're not really getting compensated in a way that would allow you to do that, or what? What is the reasoning?
Yeah, I just don't like supporting your stuff.
Okay.
I came on as a favor to Mark Z. And
okay, because you're jealous, of the success I've had. Okay, so who's the next caller?
Mark, I don't know what I walked into, but I thought I heard some compliments to me. I was going to let that go.
Rafters, join the call. Where are you calling from, Rafters?
I am calling from sunny Northern California.
So, sunny? Is that?
I really doubt it's sunny.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, far from sunny right now. It's actually really cloudy, rain today. But East Bay.
Well, it's also 4 a.m., isn't it?
Nick Allen was just living in the East Bay.
I did. I lived in El Cerrito.
It's 10 o'clock. It's 10 o'clock, boys. What's going on? 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Whatever.
There's no
Either
sun
way.
in SoCal at 10 either.
East Bay native, similar to Nick Allen previously. So what do you got for us, Rafters?
Well, my first topic I wanted to talk about was Golden Guardians specifically. I am a diehard Warriors fan, so having the Warriors now basically own a team in the league is really exciting for me. And secondly, I need a new team to root for because TSM is now 3/5 EU, and I can't support an EU team, so I have to go with the Golden Guardians now for my Bay Area team.
All right, very good. Yeah, I mean, so do you have any other friends, by the way, before we get into this, that are Warriors fans that are into league that did this? Because I'm actually kind of curious how much the endemic sports teams, or sorry, the traditional sports teams are going to inherit from their fan base.
Yeah, I have actually quite a few friends. My brother actually is a Warriors fan who's now going to be rooting for Guardians, and I got two guys actually. One guy, Cheddar, and the other guy, Grant. Both of them, actually, I think they're watching stream right now. Both of them are going to be Guardian fans.
Nice.
So we're sort of building, at least in my area, a fan base for the team, even though people are shit talking them much.
Yeah, well, okay, let's get into that.
And
Holy smokes. Full disclosure, Hunter Lee, who is running that team, is a friend of Nick and mine, former colleagues to both of us. But what makes you, how do you feel about the roster? Because it came out and everybody's like, wow, this is the roster that the Warriors are feeling. There's a lot of negativity towards it, but you seem positive about it. So what do you think?
So because the team is franchised, if they don't have a strong split, the Warriors, being a professional, traditional sports organization, is going to learn from that, hopefully. And if the team doesn't perform well, they'll invest more into the team and make sure that it performs. But I think the team itself has solid players. Yes, they aren't the best in each of the positions, but each player is average to good at best. Saving definitely has room to prove himself. But I think that the roster itself is very average, if not good, with the veteran of High and the experience of somewhat rookie, not rookie anymore, contracts. And I've always had a sort of partial towards Lola and Matt. So again, all the speculation of them being on the team, I think the team itself is pretty solid in general.
Yeah, but do you want to support a team that's average to good?
Yes, I think you don't have to support the best team in the league because then you end up with TSM fans.
Yeah.
Well, so the question.
No one wants that. No
Exactly.
I think the one thing we can all agree on is that last statement. So talk to me about why you think this team's going to be good. Because how do you think this roster stacks up to to last season's FlyQuest?
Well, last season's FlyQuest, if I'm not mistaken, had a bunch of old school Cloud9 players.
Right, but I mean in terms of talent.
In talent wise, I think that specifically contracts is, I think people are going, oh, contracts is going to fall apart on this roster, oh, whatever. I think that he, if given the opportunity, can really become even more of a star than he was on Cloud9, because some of the players on the team are better at supportive roles, specifically Lorlo. He was always taking a backseat to Dardoch or to, if I'm the name of the jungler on TL last year is escaping me, Reignover. Okay, Reignover.
Oh, okay.
Reignover is also supportive, so I think that's why there might have been a bit of clashing with that. But specifically with players like High, who's plays somewhat passive sometimes and supportive, I think it'll give room for contracts to become a real shining star if the meta turns towards that jungler carry centric meta, which I think it might turn into.
Yeah. Nick, do you agree with this?
I mean,
The length of time that Nick takes when he pauses is directly proportional to how much he does not think this team will do well.
Yeah.
That was a big pause.
Hey, don't worry. I won't be rooting for CLG this year.
Yeah. Oh.
Wait, who are you rooting for?
No. He said it. He said CLG.
Guardians.
Okay.
All the way.
We'll see you in the finals. I would say.
Thanks.
So
All right, you know what?
It definitely is a really interesting play. It's someone that we had been looking at as well for our academy team, and he ended up taking a spot on the LCS team. So good on him. I think he has a lot of potential, and I think how he performs. Obviously, it's a team game. Everyone's got to do well, but I think he has potential to really break out and do some amazing things. I think High, you throw High into any roster. we've seen him mostly playing with his buddies for a long time, but like I think his leadership, his experience, his shot calling, I feel like he can do a lot with a little, and pair that with some like pretty strong players on their team, and I think Golden Guardians is a pretty solid squad. I think they're middle of the pack. I think they're a good amount better than Optic, for example. And I think like Contracts has proven himself to be pretty dang solid. It's interesting Matt being on the team and sort of his history at TL and sort of where they've been with him on the team. But anyway, I think they have a solid roster, and I think they are coming out pretty strong next to all the teams in the league, but especially the ones the new teams in the league.
Yeah. One last thing I was thinking was, I'm curious to see if, I know that everyone has respect for High because High is such, in general, like player, and the shot calling is so good. But specifically, what I was thinking was, are the players on Guardians, if this is their roster, are they going to be as committed as the old FlyQuest and then C9 guys? Because High knew all those guys, so they were completely committed 100% to his calls. Are the Guardian guys going to be as committed and follow them, or is it going to be like more of like a, all right, yes, we'll sometimes do it, or is that sort of more just like a team thing that I'm just completely like missing?
Well, so just before we answer that, a lot of chats like leaked. Guys, we're working off this Reddit link. Everything we're saying is assuming that this is correct.
Yeah, it's
so
true.
yeah, so there's no like, we're all working with this as like fact, even though a lot of it is not announced yet. So no leaks. Settle down, everybody.
Paid by Reddit.
Yeah. So I think, I don't see too big of a conflict, just because it's less about like, oh man, everyone's gonna follow his calls instantly and the trust thing. I think that's probably overhyped by a fair amount. I think the bigger thing is like, would anyone want to not listen to him and want to have their own calls? And I don't think they have that many strong personalities on this team. I think you heard Travis talking about potentially Loco. And I think that's where, if anywhere, there'd be the most conflict in terms of like shot calling and decision making and how to organize the team, because the rest of the guys, from what I know, while they all are communicative and want to talk about things, they're not like, listen to me, I am the shot caller type guys like High is. So I don't think you need to worry about it in that regard.
Yeah. Either way, thanks Raptors for the call. Looking forward to seeing how that goes, and it's cool to hear from a not only a
NorCal
sub to this Twitch channel, but also from a Native Warriors fan who became a League of Legends fan of their team. So we got two more calls.
I think we're doing just one. I think I'm just gonna do Silo.
Okay, poor Gank.
Because I think Gank was wanting to talk about CLG.
Yeah.
But I don't remember what he was saying. I can ask him.
Yeah.
I'll ask him.
Nick, can Golden Guardians take a game off CLG?
No.
Okay.
No one can.
No
We're
one
that
can?
good. We're that good.
So that's the
SKT.
headline for this video.
Yeah.
Nick Allen, no one can take a game off CLG next split.
Yeah.
You guys are going to go undefeated?
Undefeated.
Okay.
Oh, ones.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Kakarin Gaming sub. Thank you, Kakarin Gaming, for the sub. Appreciate it.
Jesus Christ, I fucked that one up.
What?
I dragged both people from the waiting room down here and then
okay.
left myself in that one because it moved around
Nice.
on my mouse.
I'm Silo has joined the call. I'm Silo. Where are you calling from?
Hey, I'm calling from Toronto.
Okay,
Nice.
Toronto. We got a Canadian. And what are your thoughts? What do you want to talk about?
I want to talk about the TL lineup because everyone's like hyping it up, but we need to remember that there was like 3 CLG players, like former CLG players, and they all had like disputes within each other. So I want to know if they're gonna have some problems again within the team, and if it might cause TL to like perform worse than what they're expected to.
Yeah. I don't think that these 3 players had disputes with each other. It was more Afro and Doublelift that didn't want to keep... Well, Afro didn't want to keep playing with Doublelift at the end whenever he got kicked. Pobelter and Doublelift left at the same time. And I don't know if Xmithy has ever had a dispute with anybody on this planet. Like, he's such a chill dude.
He's a nice boy.
So, I mean, I don't know. Was your impression that these guys had disputes with each other?
Yeah, I wasn't too sure, but yeah, I thought that Doublelift had some problems with Smithy and Pobelter.
Okay. Yeah, that would be news to me, but I don't know exactly everything. Despite being Doublelift's fan, I don't know everything that goes on behind the scenes. We did a doc and we talked to Afro and Doublelift, and it was talked about how, or no, we didn't do a doc. We did. There was that one of these videos came out where they were. It was like me or him kind of deal, and that came down. So I know that there was that, but I will say that I feel like over time heals all wounds, I guess. Pobelter supposedly wasn't ever going to be on a team with Steve because he was frustrated before. Now he's on the team with Steve. You see a lot of things change. I even wouldn't be surprised if like Doublelift and Aframu played again together at some point in the future, although we did just hear Ole got announced, I believe, for Team Liquid today. So I don't know. So are you... Let's say there aren't issues with the team members. What do you think about Team Liquid's chances next year?
Oh yeah, for sure. They're a finalist team, and they have a good chance of like winning as well.
Sure.
Well, I think
their entire team's strong.
I think the bigger thing that people aren't talking about anymore is what's going on with their coaching staff, because there was that horrible news that the coach that they wanted passed away, and then they still have Kane. And while everyone keeps saying Kane's great, he doesn't quite have the results to back it up. And TL as an org is a team that people always say, oh, they've had so much talent, and sometimes they underperform. And I think those would be much bigger concerns for me than is Pobelter going to get along with Doublelift and Ole and Smithy kind of thing.
Yeah. Then do you think that they'd get a Korean coach or look for someone in NA?
Well,
like
Kane is Korean.
Yeah, if Kane isn't the coach.
Well, he is the coach.
No, I think he's saying if Kane isn't the guy that can succeed.
Yeah, because we've seen Kane before, and by himself or with whatever other support staff they had around him, it didn't seem like they were getting the most out of their players. So why would it be different this split?
Hey, really quick question for you, Silo. You said that TL, if they don't have any mentality issues or whatever, emotional issues, they're a finalist for sure. Who will they be playing against in the finals?
Probably TSM.
Oh, okay.
Nick, what do you think?
Nick, what do you think?
I think he's wrong. He's wrong. I think I appreciate your honesty, but you're wrong.
Okay. And really, that's.
Can I say something about TL really quick?
Yeah.
I think they have a lot. They have a bunch of like superstar older players, and I think there's a lot of challenges that come with that. I think one is a lot of these guys. They've been on a few teams, but if they have a way of doing things, and if that doesn't work with TL, I think that can unravel and they can underperform, and that could take the team down. I think some of these guys are, they're older. Maybe they're, I don't know, if we believe aging out of League of Legends, start to.
What are you trying to say about these old people? They just can't keep up anymore.
I think they can't keep up.
Doublelift and X-Smithy.
They've been playing this game 20 years.
St. Vicious Smite.
Yeah, and so there's like the aging out thing. I think that there is the personality and synergy thing Silo's describing. So I think there are ways for this not to go well. And then there's just general synergy of like, does this a team of 5 that just works together? And we don't know that either, but a lot of them have played together before, so we'll see. So I think there are a few ways that this doesn't work.
Yeah.
And I think it would really be awesome
if it didn't work.
If they got 4th place, yeah. I think it would be the most hilarious thing.
Yeah. Well, thanks for calling in, Silo. Appreciate it.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
And then, are we going to take this last call?
Yep, the last one.
Okay. You hanging in there, Nick?
I'm good, dude.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah. St. Vicious spam in the chat. Thank you to Kakarin Gaming. I think I already said that one. Yeah. Thank you again. Either way.
We're good, by the way. We're both back in the room, Travis.
Gank, what do you got for us? Where are you calling from?
Argentina.
Woohoo. Okay.
What's up, dude?
I gotta say, Gank, you have some big shoes to fill here, because the last South American call-in that we got was amazing.
Yeah. Very good.
I will try my best.
Okay.
What
do you want to talk about?
About the Froggen.
You want to know about Froggen?
No. Let me ask. Why is a player like Froggen, who has been playing at high level for 5 years, is currently teamless? I will probably not play in any LCS next split.
Well, first off, we don't know if he's teamless. It hasn't been announced.
We're working with this Reddit information.
Yeah,
which
we're working with the information, this chart. The other thing is, do you think that what if he ends up on like an academy team or something? Because we're getting a lot of rumors around the teams the players that are going to be assigned to as starters. But there is a chance that we could see Froggen come in as on the academy side. Would you still be as offended if Froggen was on an academy team?
I think he's too good for an academy team, and also he's not in the contract database under EcoFox anymore. So I think he's teamless.
Yeah, I mean he's definitely at least a free agent based off of that. So
yes.
Yeah.
So why doesn't Nick kick us off? Why do you think teams hypothetically have not tried to sign Froggen, or did they? And maybe that like his number was too high for some people or something like that.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything, so I can only speculate. Maybe he's on the tail end of his career, and so like maybe if you're thinking about a player of equivalent skill, there's probably a decent amount of those in the league, and so maybe you ask yourself, do I bring in Froggen on a multi-year contract, or do I invest in a younger player, right? And maybe they decided to go, they go younger, or they go import or something like that, right? So
and Froggen is an import technically, right?
Oh, right, that's right.
So this is maybe one of the problems too, is that you look at some of the rumored players coming in like Forbidden and Power of Evil, and so in places where you do have, granted there's Phoenix, but in places where you do have Europeans coming over, they are oftentimes like big names in the EU LCS currently, unlike Froggen, who I think most people feel is possibly past his prime as an EU player.
Yeah, I think that's right. Do you take an import in Froggen, or do you take an import in a Korean or European player? And so but there's also like the other side of it is like maybe he wanted to go back to Europe, right? And like he spent his time in North America, and he's like, hey, it's not worth it anymore. I'm gonna go find a team in Europe. Would not be surprising to me as well. And yeah, what I don't have a good read on is like how independently good he is versus everybody else. Or like was the team he was on holding him back, or like was the play style different than what he's used to? There's probably some other criteria not being considered that might bring him back into the conversation in terms of raw skill.
So Gank, looking at the the people on this Reddit list, who do you think Froggen should be starting over?
Ryu, Power of Evil, Fly.
Wow.
Yes, that's my opinion. And I also want to know if is Phoenix an upgrade over Froggen.
Right. So I kind of gave my opinion earlier, where I'm not super sure that it is an upgrade, because I think they have a lot of similar strengths, where they're both super individually strong in lane. They almost never lose laning phase for the most part, things like that. But
yeah. I'm surprised you would say Power of Evil.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Froggen.
That's
right. So to bring up the other side, I feel like these other mids that they brought over in Forbidden and Power of Evil have had better success in their career for the last 2 years, whereas Froggen has not made playoffs in years. These guys were representing Europe internationally and things like that for the most part. So I'm not too surprised to see, if you're going to go with the European import, why not try an updated model, so to speak?
Yes, I think that Froggen has been held back by his teammates in the past 2 years, but that's my opinion.
Yeah. Very good. Well, hey, thanks so much, Gank, for the call-in.
Yeah.
I hope everything's going well in Argentina.
Thanks. Bye.
Either way, show winding down now. Nick, thanks for coming on. Is there anything you want to say to any of the fans out there?
Dude, CLG is going to be so sick next year. Feeling really good about it. But
Nick,
I think
you want to make a bet or something? You want to put something on the line?
I'm not allowed to bet on the matches. I think Riot will find me.
What about hair?
I mean,
at all costs, I must avoid fines because my legacy is at stake.
I mean, we can make this a bet that you would never want to lose. Like, if CLG gets below third, you will shave your left eyebrow. I don't think Riot will be concerned about you throwing matches so you could shave your left eyebrow.
I'll shave my beard. Dude, I can't. I have a family. I can't be showing up no eyebrow.
Okay. You'll shave your beard if CLG gets below third?
Yep. Deal.
That's the most boring thing. Nick shaves his beard. You don't know this. Nick shaves his beard like every 6 months because
does he? I thought he always. Every
he
time
has
I
to
see him, he
reset.
has facial hair.
I know I could show you pictures videos even Nick with and without throughout the years.
Give yourself a male pattern baldness haircut.
He doesn't need to give himself that.
Dude,
accentuate
you
it.
seeing this? You seeing this action right here? Sorry, it's
Just-
all
just-
you need.
It's
just
a
go,
five head.
just go full blown. I don't know.
Yeah.
Let's think about what good stakes would be that don't get me in trouble. If the beard
Nick,
isn't
what
exciting
other
enough.
NALCS owners are fathers like yourself? Is it just you and Jack?
Yes. Yes, me and Jack.
Okay.
I feel like some of the new teams might have like investor level people
Do
who
you
obviously
think
have kids, but
that's going to hold you back as a
Yeah,
viewer?
exactly. I think we're gonna have a new mascot for CLG, which is my kid. Is that weird?
what does a
very weird.
CLG look like? What do you dress a kid up to be? Like, you just put a
Oh,
logo
Rick
on
Fox. Rick Fox. We forgot about that.
It's just a little. It's like a logo costume or something. I don't know.
You just turn him into the logo.
Yeah, exactly.
It's you, Jack, and Rick Fox. Because Rick Fox also has.
Oh right, yeah, I forgot Rick Fox for sure. But thanks for having me on. I had a good time. Am I supposed to shout out my sponsors?
Yeah, say something
I don't
about
know.
CLG. Anything you want to do. Any shout outs?
Shout outs to our sponsors.
Yeah.
iBuyPower, Corsair, DX Racer, 5 Hour Energy, Twitch. Love you guys, and thanks for supporting CLG. We're having a sale on merch. Get in there.
Oh my.
Buy some stuff.
Yeah, you
Don't
still
listen to
having a
Travis.
sale?
Stop watching the show.
Guys,
Am I
buy
doing-
it. CLG is guaranteed top 3, or Nick is shaving his beard
Are
into a
you
Fu Manchu.
doing a clearance on
Yes,
Afro
deal.
merchandise?
Deal. There is no Afro merchandise.
Okay.
All of our finest.
Your
finest
sale, your merch sale ends in like 2 hours. Less than that.
Exactly, guys.
Okay.
Get in there. Support CLG. Don't support Travis Gafford.
Somebody.
I didn't realize those were
Yeah.
competing.
Support Marcy.
CLG or Travis.
Support Marcy.
Travis, the unemployed content creator versus CLG,
Exactly.
owned by Madison Square Garden, a publicly traded company.
Good. I'm glad we got
Who's
that.
gonna take it?
I'm glad we got that sorted.
Yeah.
Unsub immediately.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks for coming on, Mark. You got any shout outs? Anything you want to plug?
I'm going to plug myself. Follow my Twitter. Everyone in chat right now, I'm putting it in chat. Click it and follow me if you're not doing it, because then you're a bad person. I am just working on offline TV and my own content right now. We should have a juicy offline TV thing going up tomorrow or Wednesday.
Are you going to be on the LCS next year?
I don't think I can comment on that, but
Ooh.
I haven't
like-
joined the team.
I like asking questions about the things people can't answer. That's kind of Travis's thing.
Yeah, I know, but yeah, I think chat is smart enough to read between the lines.
Is it somebody joining offline TV?
What?
Is that the juicy news tomorrow?
Oh, no. It has to do with Twitch and what's ruining Twitch.
Oh. Is it about the... Is it...
No.
I can't say anymore.
Okay. I'm excited. Well, I know what's ruining my revenue, which is ad block. So if you ad block, feel free to sub. Hook it up. TravisGafford.com/support. You can help me out there. I would love to continue to stay independent, and you wonderful people are one small little piece in the puzzle of my ability to do that. But sometimes it's the smallest pieces of the puzzle that really connect the rest of the puzzle. So if you want to help me out, you can do that at TravisGafford.com/support. And the same way that he spammed his Twitter, I'm spamming my Instagram, Boudoir Photography.
Boudoir.
You did it. You said it. You said it's going to be in the
Nick
mall.
Allen's favorite Travis Gafford meme is that I besides wonderful esports photos, you can also find some of my photography hobby there, which is well, at least on Instagram it's safe for work. Foxy Talbot just subbed, thank you so much, and Artha LOL subbed earlier today too. Either way, that's the whole show. Thank you for watching episode 4. We're done.